Well, I don't know what you thought this program was, Mr. Green, but it's a family. It's a family show.
Club Random.
Who's the biggest election canceller than Donald Trump?
You know, he was my old boss. He fired me on the Celebrity Apprentice.
I have to hear this story.
Club Random.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Tom, listen. Oh my gosh.
Are we wearing the same shirt?
Yeah,
Very good.
mine's better.
Good to see you, man.
Yours is more like a farmer shirt.
Yes, exactly, because I'm a farmer now.
I know you are.
I am a farmer.
Mine's fresh.
Yeah.
So,
Very
listen,
pretty farmer.
I borrowed that weed whacker from you 24 years ago, and I have been meaning to give it back to you.
I actually got it back today. I was wondering about that. Yeah.
Now, for people who are wondering what I'm referring to, you used to live here.
That's true. Yeah, very
and
briefly.
I lived next door.
Yeah, till it burned down.
I lived here 2 weeks, and then you burned your house down on purpose.
Yeah, well,
Why?
it wasn't exactly the way it went, but
Drew did.
yeah. I do remember having a conversation. I'd probably just moved to Los Angeles just weeks earlier, and I remember having a conversation with you through the fence once because the dog ran over there or something
Through
like
the
that.
fence.
Yeah.
Just like regular people.
Yeah.
Just like regular neighbors.
Absolutely.
Stars are just like us. I moved here in January of 2001.
Uh-huh.
When did you move next door, which is now this store?
It must have been in 2000, I would say, because it was when my show was on MTV in Los Angeles. So we.
Was Drew already living here?
Yes, she was. Yeah, yeah. It was basically.
So you moved into this place, but it was already here. She already had it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was basically doing my show on MTV. I just moved to Los Angeles, and I was here for probably just a couple of months or something like that. Not too long, but yeah, it was because the place burned down. So then we moved. That was a scary thing. Now, were you here the night that happened? Do you remember the fire? Or
It's so funny. The fire 2 weeks after I moved in, and of course you don't really know where you were in the house versus the street. Neighbor, you're just getting reoriented. There were still boxes in my living room.
Yeah.
And I remember emailing my assistant and said, I think it was a Sunday.
Mhm.
And I said, I didn't get the Sunday New York Times today. Do you happen to know why? And she emailed back, yeah, because there were 16 fire trucks on your street.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So
And
you
they-
must have slept pretty good through that, huh?
Apparently my bedroom is, I know it now is on the opposite side of my house.
Mhm.
So this property, it was, and this house was set quite a bit back.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would have thought I would have heard. I don't think I'd sleep that well today.
Yeah, that was a scary situation for sure. I had just gone about 6 months earlier. Had just gone through cancer treatment
Right.
because I had testicular cancer while I was on
Right.
MTV. So my show had
Ooh.
ended.
I fear that one.
Yeah, that's not a fun one to have, but it's a good one because you don't die from it usually.
Right.
So
How do they
that's-
detect it?
Well, I noticed something was kind of. I felt some pain down there in my right testicle.
Actual pain.
Yeah, it was a throbbing kind of sort of thing, and I went to the doctor and got checked out, and that's what happened. But
You didn't feel anything?
well, like a little bit of pain and
No, I mean like when you felt did you go, did I used to have 3 balls?
yeah. No, well, actually, the right one had gotten significantly larger as well, which I was kind of thinking.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. So it felt like there was.
So if I check my balls and they feel basically equal, I'm okay, you think?
I think so. Yeah, you would feel some sort of a dull aching pain is what I felt. Some people feel more pain, like sharper pain, but I felt a dull aching pain. And then you'll go to the doctor, and sometimes they'll misdiagnose it. And so, like I was misdiagnosed initially as.
Is that right?
Yeah, they said it was epididymitis, and put me on antibiotics for a few weeks. And we went off and shot another show with Monica Lewinsky. Well, we drove up to. Flew up to Canada with her and shot a television show for MTV with her, and all the
She's
while.
felt a few balls in her day.
You know, I'm lobbing these up for you, Phil. I appreciate you
Monica
taking the bait there on that one. Yeah.
Oh, anytime. Monica Lewinsky said, well, not to get off on a tangent, not that we have an agenda here, so one could buy everything is a tangent, but You know, I take a lot of shit for my views about medicine, which I don't think are weird at all. I'm just more skeptical, I think, than most people. And it's partly, and just anecdotally, I can't tell you how many times I've heard the phrase, and it was misdiagnosed. And it's like, I'm not saying you guys aren't trying in the medical field. I'm not saying you're corrupt, although there is some of that. You know, and I'm certainly not saying that everything Bobby Kennedy is right, says is right.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm skeptical of everything. You guys very often don't get it right.
Yeah.
So don't fucking look at me like, how dare you question what we in the white coats are saying? Because when have we ever gotten one wrong?
Yeah.
A lot. You get it wrong a lot.
Yeah.
So no, I don't take anything you say at face value, and I'm just not going to march to whatever you say because you are the science.
Yeah. I think.
Damn it, Tom, you've got me all riled up about your balls.
Yes, absolutely.
These aren't even my balls, and I'm pissed off.
Did you just make yourself a drink there?
Yes, can I do it for you?
I suppose I should have a drink then. Yeah, if you want. Yeah. What did you have there? What did you make there? Is it a little?
It's just tequila.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I think.
A little rot gut.
Why not?
Never
Why not?
heard a farmer like you.
Absolutely. Canadian farmer can have
And
a
what
shot
can
of
I
tequila.
can I make you the same drink?
Yeah.
I
What are you mixing?
All
it
right,
with
this
then?
is an interesting concoction. First, we of course have ice.
Yeah.
Would you like to
Sure.
pour your own ice,
do
or
this.
I don't want to put my hand in.
No problem. No problem. Yeah. Okay. And then would you just mix it with some water there, or what do you put
we
in?
will add the.
Yeah.
I'm doing a cooking show now. With
Yeah.
Tom. I feel like our future has a cooking show in it.
Absolutely.
I mean,
that would be amazing if it involved tequila. It's always fun.
Cooking with liquor.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it. I mean, it's different. Okay, so then we add. This is Jing, and this is because I'm a health nut.
Okay.
This is I love this stuff. It's a way to make sparkling water into a diet soda without any of the chemicals that are in diet soda.
Oh, okay.
Now,
Okay. Oh, yeah.
sugar-
Sure.
But not even the stuff that's in the non-sugar ones, which are still chemical.
It's like a flavored sort of
Yes,
chemical.
Yes, and then we add the sparkling water.
Okay.
Now,
Excellent.
there are some health nuts, real nuts, and anyone who is more to the left than me is nuts, of course, who don't even think sparkling water is good for you. But you know what? You got
Because there's some sort of carbon in that or something?
Yeah, carbonated. I can't even remember why. I'm sure, is anything as good as clear mountain water? No. But we got none of that here. What we got is liquor and a good time.
That looks good.
And, you know.
There we go. That looks like a nice drink there for sure. All right. Cheers, Bill. Thank you.
Great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
On
My fiance is here as well.
Oh.
I'm engaged. My fiance is out in the control room.
Well, I hope you're engaged to your fiance. Because other than that, it doesn't look like much of a commitment.
No. Yeah.
No, but I saw you, the front page of the New York Times, Arts and Leisure.
Wasn't that something?
I was
huh?
like, wow, this guy is iconic. He never he always reinvents himself. The public never doesn't want to read about him or see him in whatever new iteration he's in. You know, he's a real artist. You are. I mean, when I think of like when you first blew up and you were like one of those rare rock star comedians, really cover Rolling Stone type stuff.
Yeah, it was a wild time for sure.
And now you're a fucking farmer. No, but you know, it makes sense because in life you do go through passages. You aren't the same person you are at 22.
Yeah, yeah.
How old are you now?
I'm 53.
Yeah, 53.
And you know, I'm I'm not essentially doing a lot of farming, really. I live on a farm. I have there's hay fields that we cut the hay, and I have a donkey and a mule, and I ride this mule. I didn't know anything about mules.
What is the difference between the donkey and the mule?
Yeah, because I actually thought they were the same before I got the mule. A mule is half horse, half donkey. So it's like a
Right.
hybrid. So it's like her Fanny is her name, and her father was a mammoth donkey, and her mother was a Percheron horse.
Horse, half donkey?
Half
Is a
donkey.
mule.
Yeah.
So,
They have 62 chromosomes. A donkey has 63 chromosomes. A donkey has 62, and a horse has 64. It might be the other way around, but one way or another, the odd number of chromosomes, the 63 chromosomes, means they're sterile, can't reproduce. So the only way you can make a mule 2 mules won't make another mule. You can't
Right.
breed mules. You have to get donkeys and horses and put them
But
together. And
what's odd to me about the whole thing is that donkeys and horses fuck, because the definition of a species usually is creatures that will only fuck creatures that are in, like, leopards don't fuck tigers.
right. Yeah.
Although you'd think if you're horny one night,
Yeah.
you'd be like, okay, I was looking for a tiger, but I mean, is it
Well,
that different? But they don't.
It's generally the male donkey fucking
Of
the
course.
female horse.
I
Not
know.
the other way around.
Right.
So, like, a horse doesn't generally want to have sex with I'll say it more politely, have sex with
Right.
with a donkey for some reason. So, and I don't know, I wasn't there when it happened. I just got, she was 10 years old when I got her, but it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, you say you weren't there, but I've certainly seen in enough movies, and that's where I know everything I know about farming from, where someone has to assist
Sure.
the horse
Sure. Yeah.
in the sexual act.
I think when you're getting 2 different species to procreate, there's a little bit
No,
of human
No,
interaction
even
there.
if it's not even if it's just 2 horses.
Yeah, yeah.
They want, of course, the horses to mate because they want
Yeah.
a pony, and who doesn't want a pony for your birthday? But they have to, like, lubricate sometimes the horse.
Okay, yeah. So I'm a new farmer, so I don't know everything.
Well, I'm
about this.
saying this is in your future. You're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
have to learn to jerk off a horse.
I could see, if you've seen Freddy Got Fingered, I mean, I know a little bit about that. But
Right. Oh, right. I forgot about Freddy Got Fingered.
But no, it's been an amazing thing. I moved back to Canada, where I'm from. So I live not too far from where I grew up, and my parents lived down the road. And I found this property and made
Can we say what province this is?
It's in Ontario. Yeah, sort of between Toronto and Ottawa, closer to Ottawa. Yeah.
Don't tell the nuts where you live.
No. Ontario's pretty big. Ontario's about
I was
twice the
gonna
size
say.
of Texas, so they'll have a hard time narrowing it down just from that. But
Right.
we're a big country up there. The future 51st state potentially.
Well, fingers crossed.
Yeah, it'll be the only state in America where nobody in it wants to be American,
Yeah, I mean,
except for Jordan Peterson, Wayne Gretzky, and that guy from Shark Tank.
well, Jordan is sat there. I'm a good
Have you had Wayne on yet? Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
I know he's a hockey player. I never followed hockey.
The
It's-
great one.
Yeah. Why is he a big right winger?
Well, I don't know. I do know that he hangs out a little bit at Mar-a-Lago, and that it may be that Mr. Trump President Trump was attempting to maybe get him to run for prime minister.
Are you happier now that you're in Canada?
I am actually not. It's not that I wasn't. It's just it's nice to be closer to my family, and it's a nice change for sure. I like being in nature. I like being out in the.
Is it something you couldn't have done unless you were getting engaged? I mean, it's a very different thing to move alone to someplace.
Actually, I met her there. So I met her after I moved. I moved 3.5 years ago.
Oh.
Met her up there, and so she's Canadian, and my life's really coming together as soon as I went back to Canada. I don't know what it is, Bill, but
Do you have kids?
no kids, no.
So do you think you're going to start a family now?
I would like to, yeah.
And what will you tell your kids you do? Because certainly you're not going to admit to being
Yeah.
Tom Green. I mean, that certainly.
I'll
would
show
be-
them the documentary.
Not until they're like 20.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I would.
I don't know. I'll probably, I'll probably tell them I'm a comedian. I too are doing stand-up comedy. Maybe I don't know if I'll bring them to one of my shows in the first 10 years, but maybe I'll show them the documentary that I just put out. That should explain it.
What about Freddy Fingered?
You'll have to wait till they're at least 14 to see that
What
one.
was the controversy with that? I forget. I remember it was a very big. They wrote about it a lot. What year are we talking about?
We're talking about 2000, I believe it was. 2000.
Oh, really?
2001, early 2001.
So
Early
it was like the
2001.
fire and then that.
Yeah, it was right. A lot of
Oh.
things happened in close succession.
Should have read your horoscope that week.
Yeah.
Mercury was in retrograde or some
A
shit
lot
like
of good
that.
things happened. A lot of weird things happened. I
Right.
mean, the fact that they let me direct the movie and do this movie when I was just on
Why were
MTV and
people so mad about it?
I think it was just. I mean, it's a good question because it's kind of gotten a little bit of a
Resurgence,
yeah.
because that's what happens
People actually say they like it now.
over time. Time is great for that.
Yeah. It was one of these things where it was a very. I pushed the envelope as far as the outrageousness in the scenes, and it was very
Right.
silly. I don't know if there was a feeling of why was I directing this thing, or I don't know. It's really hard to say. It was one of those things though where I had that opening weekend experience where there was all of this anticipation. We were all really excited about it.
Right.
We thought it was pretty funny. We enjoyed it, and then when it came, when the Roger Ebert came out and sort of did his sort of review of it, it was kind of like, oh, that's not very good, is it? Now, so it was sort of very
And
disheartening.
explain to the kid, Tom. Explain to the kids out there this Roger Ebert you
Yeah.
speak of.
Yeah.
Who
So
was-
back in the olden times,
yes, yes,
3 movies would come out every weekend, and
Right.
it was very important that you went to the right one and spent your money in the right place. So they would have these critics who would advise you on how to spend your hard-earned dollar
So people would watch that as a television show. They would watch critics talk about
on
movies.
this thing called television, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
And it was very, they were very respected, their opinions.
Would they tell you which movies had done best at the box office that week? Yes, they would.
Sure, of course, yeah.
That
of
was
course.
a big thing.
Of course, and it was very...
And I remember there were people who complained about it. We shouldn't know because we should just be able to decide on the merits of the movie and not by, oh, it's number one. Of course I'm going to see the number one movie. As if I ever did that. As if I ever looked at it and went, well, it's number 6. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
It's Kubrick, but it's 6, so
it
fuck
was
it.
the head of the studio, New Regency, Arnon Milchan. I don't know if you know Arnon.
Of course, I know of him.
He took me aside after the Roger Ebert negative review and
Right.
told me, my very first movie, Tom, was King of Comedy, and Roger Ebert, destroyed it. And 20 years later, he actually was the only movie he's ever reversed his opinion on it. And,
That's a Martin Scorsese movie.
Exactly. But funnily enough, he did kind of, a few years later, Ebert did kind of give a little bit of a, not a complete reversal, but he said, well, I'm still thinking about that movie. There's something weird about it.
But what did Gene Siskel say?
Well, it was actually Ebert and Roper. Remember there was
Oh, of course.
a short period of time there where it was that guy
Yes.
Roper. So, and he didn't like it either. So, but it wasn't really, it's weird, because, well, it's very much like stand-up in a lot of ways. You can sort of choose to shock or polarize your audience, or maybe purposefully push half of the audience away for the entertainment of the other half of the audience. This is what I thought we were doing. We were making this movie that was going to be so weird that maybe half the audience would get up and walk out of the theater, and then the half that remained would be sitting there like they were in on the joke, right?
People like you and me never have the whole audience. And very few people do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a big country.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I get it the way you're explaining. To me, it's like, that's what an artist does. I make the movie I think is funny.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are not going to like it. And I know that going in. And that's okay. Because I'm not playing to them. I mean, that's what I go by.
Yeah. And I think with that movie, part of it was, I guess we kind of felt like part of the punchline was the fact that some people just weren't going to get it. Like, that was kind of the punchline, like, this was so stupid that, like, how could you have made something so stupid? And people get angry about it, and that's what's funny. And so
Well,
I was surprised that Roger Ebert and Roper weren't able to kind of sort of step back a bit and go, some 28-year-old kid who's just, fell off the turnip truck here in Los Angeles, and he's trying to make a weird movie, and let's, maybe understand that this isn't, he wasn't trying to make The Jazz Singer. This is supposed to be stupid. but instead it was just sort of treated as it was
Well,
not a successful.
I'm sure you're a fan of Spinal Tap.
Sure, yeah,
And
absolutely.
of course, there's the great line in Spinal Tap where he says, it's a fine line between clever and stupid.
Right, right, yeah, yeah,
When
yeah.
they're accused of, yeah. And in a way, there actually is.
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, it's just how something strikes you. I mean, there are people who saw Spinal Tap and didn't understand it was a mockumentary at all. They just
Yeah,
took it at face value and like, oh, this band isn't very good.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing because
Yeah.
that was sort of, you know, what year would Spinal Tap have been? Early '80s or
Oh, early 80s?
late '70s, early '80s, mid
Not
'80s, mid
70s.
'80s then, early '80s. I don't know what
Yeah, I
year it
guess
came out,
so.
but
I mean,
yeah.
it's Rob Reiner's first movie, right?
Hmm.
Yes, let's just say 80s.
It's kind of amazing to think that people would have actually believed it was real. It's like I remember when I started my show in the '90s and I was pulling pranks on my parents. People didn't understand that they were not actors at first. They thought, "Oh, those." People would say, "Are those your real parents?" You know, they hadn't sort of been inundated with reality TV yet, so they were sort of unable to sort of process the fact that some kid would go, paint pornography on his parents' car or paint their house. And so they just thought they were actors, which blew me away because, I mean, they obviously weren't actors. It was obviously a home video kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was, I feel like a bridge to something like Borat.
Yeah, it was like just before that and just
Right,
before,
just before that.
yeah, yeah. So it
Where,
was,
yeah.
so when, so let me ask you this. When did you decide you wanted to do a second TV show in your living room here?
Well, of course, it's not my living room. I bought your house.
Sure, sure, sure.
And so this was always a strange room, this building. Many people told me to tear it down. I mean, I didn't buy the house directly from you. Somebody else bought it for a few years, and I
Yeah,
bought it from him.
yeah.
Okay. So up top is a tiki bar. I was told Drew put that in.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't actually recall ever being in this room, so I think
Really?
yeah, it might have been the second after me was built, or maybe I don't know. I'm not sure.
No, I think this was here when you were.
Okay.
I think you were just stoned and just didn't see it. I mean, really, you don't remember?
I did not smoke marijuana when I was making my show back in the day. I was like afraid of it. I was like this uptight kid who didn't smoke marijuana. I do occasionally now, but back then I was not.
You want?
Maybe I'll wait a little bit because
Yeah, yeah,
I
no.
might stop. I'll make even less sense than I make now. But
Could you grow it on your farm?
you're allowed to grow it in Canada. That's one thing that Justin
We're allowed-
Trudeau did that people
We're allowed to
appreciate.
grow it here.
Legalized
We're
weed.
allowed to grow it here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you can. I don't know if that's state by state.
Is there a limit of the amount of plants you can grow here? Or
um,
you're not actually growing it yourself.
I'm not.
You don't need to grow it. There's plenty of good weed down here in California. So
That's not completely true. I have a little garden.
okay, yeah.
But it's like one plant or something. It's I'm not a farmer.
Do you only smoke your own weed that you grow, or is it something?
Well, that is one good advertisement for growing your own weed. You know that someone is not putting in pesticides
Absolutely.
and God knows what else they sprinkle in there, fentanyl or I don't know.
For sure.
They could put anything in anything. Anytime you're getting something, well, now it's different because it's a pot store that is better than some sketchy dealer who you have to make conversation with when you really just want to get your drugs and leave. But it's still, are they completely trustworthy? When even if something says organic at the store, I'm like, were you on the farm? Did you actually see it growing and know what they were doing? No, it's a squash. They told you it's organic. They could be fucking doing anything. So you don't know unless, it's your plant and or friends who you trust. But yeah, I mean, I probably shouldn't be smoking pot at all.
Why is that? You
Well, I'm almost 70.
right? Sure.
I mean, I was always clear-minded about pot. Um, I never was like some of my hippie friends who want to tell you it's health food. It's not. I don't think it's bad for your mind.
Yeah.
But smoke in your lungs, you know, I always come back to common sense.
Yeah,
Is that really the optimal? Like, would my body be asking for smoke if I?
so what about just gummies or edibles? Does that just
Yeah,
not get
I've
not the same
tried.
kind of
It's too much of a commitment.
okay?
It takes. Then it drives the bus.
Something about the ritual of, do you actually roll the joint, or do you
No,
get
it's not about the ritual, although the ritual is fun too. I mean, I know lots of people are into the drug culture. I've always said, it's just about the drugs. The culture, I don't really care about.
yeah,
It's the drugs themselves, you know, just like music. I'm not really into the Beatles lunchbox, even though people have given me one. I know, I love them, but it's really the music. Okay. With the pot, um, oh, fuck, what were we talking about? See, there you go.
you were somewhat an early adapter, though, in mainstreaming the discussion of being
Yeah.
somebody who would be on
Oh,
television. And I mean, maybe it wasn't public, but I
you
certainly
haven't.
was, people certainly would say,
When
yeah, well, Bill smokes weed
when I
before he
was
goes
on
on the show. And I was
politically,
always thought that was pretty cool,
when I was on Politically Incorrect,
Yeah, yeah.
um, it was on ABC for the
Mhm.
last 6 years,
Yeah.
and this was the '90s, and they were hardcore about policing. Just talk about pot.
Yeah.
We had a yelling match once with the censors at ABC because we wanted to do a sketch called Harry Pothead.
Sure, sure.
And that was beyond the pale. And if I had anyone on the panel who agreed with me that pot's great
Mhm.
and is not harmful and should not be classified with acid and liquor's more harmful, all the obvious points
Mhm.
that sensible people have been making for decades, you had to have someone on the panel who would give you the countering argument.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So they would actually organize that in advance. You'd have to kind of. So what about actually smoking it though before you went on the air back on the ABC days? Was that something you had to kind of sneak out into the
No,
parking
I,
lot to
I
do, or?
never smoked before a show.
Oh, you don't?
I
Okay,
drank and
just
jerked.
during.
I drank and jerked off, but I never smoked.
So on this show you do, but on a broadcast show you don't. Or back then you didn't.
That is one of the main.
You don't have to answer this.
No,
So.
I'm happy to answer. I have no secrets.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whenever they photograph me, I'm like, what are you photographing?
Yeah.
Like you're saying, get you shopping. So, oh, you mean a man in his 60s is alone on the street
Mhm.
walking? That's as interesting to you? I have no secrets.
Mhm.
I'm not hiding a gay relationship. I'm not married.
Mhm.
I'm not cheating. I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Smoking pot,
Yeah.
which I've always been upfront about.
Yeah.
And I like girls.
Yeah.
Get the fuck away from me.
Yeah. No, it's.
But
I'm not judging at all.
no, no.
I'm just kind of trying to get
No,
to the bottom.
I'm just saying. They used to be so uptight about just mentioning stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it was like I'm trying to think of what an analogy for today would be, like pedophilia or something. Just like just Nazism.
It was an amped up anti-drug era in the 80s with the "This Is Your Brain on Drugs" and Nancy
Right.
Reagan and the egg and the
Yes.
frying pan, and it's like, that's my brain in a frying pan frying my brain. So yeah,
so
I can see
true.
why people would have been a little worried about it, with that sort of being constantly plugged into our minds. But
Yeah.
yeah,
There was a billboard, I remember, on the way to LAX back when I was often on that road. That road that connects like the 405 to LAX.
okay,
I
yeah,
can't remember it.
right,
It's so long.
yeah,
But I was on it a zillion times, and there was a billboard, and it was like one of those "This Is Your Brain" but it was about Coke, and it showed a line, and every time I saw it, I was like, I'm not even a cokehead, and I want to do some coke now.
yeah,
I mean, just seeing the line of Coke was
right.
it's like
It was
seeing
sort of
the
like an ad for
yeah,
cocaine.
it's like seeing the egg.
Yeah.
I want eggs.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, it's well, that's that.
Do you have chickens? Because
I have chickens, yeah.
well, let me
The
tell
price of
you,
eggs is.
you can make a killing
Mhm.
right now.
I've been thinking about this, getting into the egg business.
Maybe you and I could work something out. Like, I mean, I'm here in America
Yeah.
still. You could get it to
You
me.
can be my egg distributor, my dealer. Yeah, I'll be the. Yeah, well, it's amazing, how many eggs a few chickens will lay. Like, I don't eat a ton of eggs, so I don't actually go. I have 6 chickens, and I have these other guinea hens, they're called, which are sort of like a cross between a quail and a turkey, but they run around the property and they eat a lot of bugs and stuff.
It's not quail and turkey fucking now, is it?
No, they're actually
What is it?
I mean, I don't think that's where they look like that, but they're not. They're actually their own distinct species called guinea hens. They eat a lot of ticks. A guinea hen will eat thousands and thousands of ticks and bugs a day, so they clear out the whole property of all these.
You have ticks up there?
Well, we didn't until 5 years ago. Global warming, climate change they've moved north. They've been in the U.S., of course, forever, but they come up from Pennsylvania and New York on the deer. But 5 years ago, there were no ticks in Canada, so that's climate change is real.
That
No,
is one you don't
climate
want,
change.
brother.
Yeah, no.
Is Lyme disease.
The Lyme disease, yeah, exactly. So
I would never go anywhere near any place that had ticks. I mean, if I don't know what I'll do if they come here, and they probably will.
they aren't in California, I guess. Okay, yeah.
Well, there are still some at the Morris office. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm actually with them now. I'm making fun of my own agency now. I forgot.
It sounds better with the Morris office.
It does.
It's more
It
old
does.
school,
It
It's
was
like-
what I heard when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I thought it was so cool to be in show business when George Burns or somebody would say, like,
Absolutely.
the Morris office, and I would think, oh gosh,
Absolutely.
if I could one day.
I remember when my show was on MTV, I was signed to the William Morris agency, and
Yeah.
it was.
It was like when you watched Danny Thomas
I?
as a kid. That's like who his agent was. That's all you knew as a civilian
right.
about agencies.
Yeah,
Who'd have thought that they would have wound up being William Morris Endeavor?
yeah. It doesn't have the same ring to it, but
No, it's not the Morris office of old, but that's probably good.
But I get about if I go in the chicken coop, back to this egg deal we're working on.
Yes.
And I haven't gone in there for a few days. I'll go in there, there'll be like 45 eggs in there. Like each chicken is laying 1 or 2 eggs a day. And so, if you have 6 chickens, you definitely will never be able to eat all the eggs that those 6 chickens will produce.
It is amazing to think that if we weren't a species that was so into chicken abortions, what the world would be overrun with chickens.
Yeah.
Every egg we ate had become a chicken.
The thing is, well, they're not fertilized yet unless you have a rooster. So they're not really.
Oh, is that right?
I don't know if it would be
What does the
considered a
rooster
chicken
do?
abortion until so I don't have a rooster. So if you don't have a rooster, then the eggs are never going to hatch.
What does the rooster do to the egg?
Well, I think it just fucks the chicken actually. But then
Yeah, but
then
the egg
then
comes.
the egg comes out and it's a fertilized egg and there's an embryo in it and. It's like
every
8th
egg that
grade
comes
sex
out-
ed class right now, Bill. You know what a chicken does.
I know,
a
but
rooster does to a
I'm-
chicken.
But I do, but it's before the egg. Once
Right.
the egg comes out,
Well,
it's ready to hatch.
That's
now.
the difference with the chicken. The egg hatches outside the body, but it's still has to be fertilized, I think, beforehand. So if you don't have a rooster, you never have a fertilized egg. And by the way, I didn't know any of this shit till 3 years ago either. So I have chickens now, so I know a lot of this stuff.
So the rooster does stud service for the entire bunch of hens?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a rooster, then you'll get fertilized eggs. But then the chicken still has to sit on it and incubate it for a period of time before it hatches. So even if you have a rooster, you can still eat your eggs.
Must be where the connection is with calling a cock after a rooster.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. I think so. It must be. Well, of course it must be. I haven't thought about that, but it must be. I would
It
think.
must be.
Why would it not be? Yeah.
Tom, you're so reasonable. I can't believe people think you're a weirdo.
It makes sense to me. Yeah.
No.
Well, it's it depends who you ask. It depends who you ask. But yeah, no, it's
It's so funny that you go from like ultimate weirdo to like ultimate non-weirdo.
I thought
It's a great arc.
I thought that like there's so much weird shit on the internet now.
Right. You got
Like,
it. Right.
how do you sort of
You're
weird?
right.
You get up in the morning, you pick up your phone, you're seeing like violence and Karens getting chased through malls and screaming at people and everyone fighting and
Right.
and
Yes.
so were you going to compete with that?
Right. No.
Or no? I thought maybe the weirdest thing that I could do is to go do something really normal,
You're so right.
become a
If-
farmer.
Zig when they zag.
Absolutely.
That's it.
And there's a lot of comedy in my new show. I mean, my parents are on it. It's just more
So it's you and Nicole
situational.
Richie.
The simple life type thing.
That's what it.
It's a little bit like that.
It's Ava Gabor, but you
it meets the simple life. You know,
Do you remember Green Acres?
we almost called the show Green Acres, but because it was taken. But
Wasn't that great?
that was a little before my time. Not to
You
date
should
myself,
watch
but
them.
yeah.
It was very.
I remember watching reruns of it. I was more of a Beverly Hillbillies kind of guy.
There's
though.
a layer to Green Acres that's very sophisticated.
Mhm.
It was almost surreal because, the plot was, of course, Oliver, Eddie Albert played him. He's a New York, I guess he was a lawyer or something. He's wearing three-piece suits, marries Ava Gabor,
Mhm.
who's darling, and but she's hot, and she wants to live in the. Oh no, he wants to live in the country. She's
Okay, yeah.
like, oh fuck it, we're leaving Park Avenue for the country, but he wants to. He has this thing in his head about, and so all the people around him on the farm and in the town, they're all like insane. He's the only sane one there.
Mhm.
And yet they also vibe with the wife because she's insane in her way.
Mhm.
So they kind of meld, even though she hates being in the country.
Mhm.
And he's just like the sane guy in the middle.
Mhm.
And it's really very well scripted. I think you would be impressed.
It was it was sort of the opposite of the Beverly Hillbillies, right? Which was they were.
I mean, I think that show was funny too, and it had a similar thing where the hillbillies would, in their own way, meld with some people you wouldn't expect. But yeah, it was more just misunderstandings of, the cement pond and like what things were, but I feel like the writing back then, those writers were good.
Mhm.
Those green jean shows that they used to call them on CBS, that's what kept CBS alive for years. It wasn't just the Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres. There was also Petticoat Junction.
Okay, I've heard of it.
And they were all sort of, and Andy Griffith.
Right, watched that quite a bit.
They
yeah.
were all sort of, and they all kind of like cross-pollinated at a certain point with the ones on the other shows.
Mhm.
I think it was all taking place like in North Carolina.
Mhm.
I'm sure it looks very racist today.
But it was
Was-
shot probably in the parking lot
not-
at CBS Radford or something.
Of course it was. And it wasn't overtly racist. It's just that there weren't black people in existence in their world.
Mhm, mhm.
The 60s and the South.
Mhm.
I mean, they're just, but that's where the world was, I mean, yes, even liberals didn't think it was the wrong thing. So nobody should like fucking look back to the past and go, oh, we're better than you. No, you just came later.
You must find it to be either extremely interesting, challenging, or frustrating living in this sort of current political climate doing the show that you do, because you have to walk this
All of the
really
above.
sort of
Yeah.
razor edge line of
All of the above.
you obviously got to speak your mind, but you if you choose a side, I guess you would say, then you could
Yeah, I'm-
disenfranchise half the people and you want everybody to watch.
I've already disenfranchised many people. That's what I was saying to you before. People like us, in not the same way, but in our own ways, will never, ever have the giant audience. And it's okay. Most of the giant audience is going to see the one about the earthquake that's going to destroy the earth, and I don't know, Aquaman is going to solve it. And that's okay.
Mhm.
But we're working to a more limited group. And again, big country, still a lot of people.
So how you feel when you
but it-
say something that is an opinion, a true sort of opinion of yours, or a conversation that happens on your show, that clipped, it's taken out
That's-
of context, it goes out,
That's terrible.
and,
See,
and sort of then it sort of paints the show with a different kind of
I'm one of
brush
the
than-
only true
I'd like another one of these, by the way, too. This one.
cigarette.
Well, I'll try
more-
one of those too, but
I'm one of the only true honest brokers, which is why part of each side despises me, because I'm generally an old school liberal, which is very different from woke.
Mhm.
But I've never been a conservative, and I'm still not. But woke people would say I am because they're stupid, and they don't understand perspective. But
This one, right?
I let the chips fall where they may with, like, who's going to stay and who's going to go. I feel like a lot of people couldn't hang when the left got crazy, and I would not just pretend that they didn't.
Mhm.
So that, it is always not pleasant when anyone leaves. I would like everybody. I would like every single person in the country to adore every word I say.
Mhm.
The only reason I argue is because I have to. I don't want to.
Mhm.
I wish everybody would just agree with me from the get-go. So
But
there's no joy in that, but
do you feel a sense of responsibility
totally, I
to
feel a
change the
huge
world for the
sense.
better?
Well, that's a
Or are
little.
you just
That's
trying
a
to tell the truth?
that's a little grandiose, but
Mhm.
I do feel a sense of responsibility because this is what I can't. There are places I go where I can't go 2 feet without somebody stopping me and saying to me, "Thank God for you. Nobody else is sensible." Blah blah blah. These are people who don't like the extremes.
Mhm.
They don't like Trump, and they don't like you know woke bullshit. And those people, that's my audience.
Mhm.
And yes, I do feel a responsibility to them because I get the feeling when I talk to them that they feel they have very few other people. There are people in print doing it, but not on television.
Because it seems
They
that
all have the exact same point of view.
it seems that doesn't matter what network, but you pick a network, they choose one side, the other network chooses the other side. They stick with that regardless of the issue.
Well,
There's a sort of a set of rules that you say this about that,
to your
to
point,
the right, left. But you seem to go back and forth over some of those sort
yes,
of
everything is a case by case.
yeah.
I mean, I have a list already. Trump's been in office a month of what I hate because I said before the election I'm not going to pre-hate anything. No, I already have a long list of what I hate. There's also a list of things I don't hate.
Mhm.
That a lot of, I mean, everybody on the MSNBC world automatically hates the whole list.
Mhm.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that guy. And that guy is boring and doesn't really, is not, there are lots of people who just feel their identity is very wrapped up in their politics. This is the difference between wokeness and rationality. Woke, it's all about identity. Old school liberals is about ideas,
Mhm.
freedom and freedom of speech and individual rights, all the stuff that makes this country great that we put in the Constitution, you know, balancing the government with 3 different branches, things like that, scientific inquiry, things that didn't even exist a couple of hundred years ago. These are ideas. If you align yourself with the ideas, in my view, that's what you should be doing. That's an old school liberal. That's not what the woke do. They just align themselves with an identity.
Mhm.
Like the Palestinians must be completely correct and the Israelis all wrong because their identity is that they're poorer and browner, so they must be good, and the Israelis are richer and whiter, so they're bad. No, that's not aligning yourself with ideas. Those are identities.
Or
The
something less
idea,
controversial, the Canadians. We could talk about the Canadians and the tariffs. And, it's interesting, the
see,
hockey
that's on
booing.
my I hate list.
Mhm.
I hate the fact that an American president, my president, is like threatening people with like starting a new American empire. We're going to take Greenland and we're going to take Panama. I hate this.
Mhm.
There's lots of stuff I hate.
Yeah.
I didn't vote for him.
It's interesting living in Canada as a Canadian, having lived here and then moved back to Canada. And, with these tariffs that are being implemented or threatened at least, people are obviously very upset in Canada about this now. It's going to completely decimate the economy. And of course, it's going to have a same sort of effect on the American economy in a lot of ways.
It's a terrible idea.
So it really doesn't make a lot of sense.
No sense.
But then, there's a hockey game, U.S. versus Canada this week, and the Canadian crowd booed the American national anthem, of course. Now, this was not a very nice thing to do normally under.
It's from my garden
Okay, I'll give that a try.
where you used to live.
Under a normal set of circumstances, I don't think the Canadians would boo
No.
Star Spangled Banner, but they did.
Not that I love everything that's been going on in Canada under Trudeau, because I don't.
He did legalize weed, though. That was one thing he did.
I love that.
But he also resigned. So
good. He was super woke.
Yeah.
To a degree I can't hang with. I mean, there is a thing about that you should be very important to someone like you, Tom. Freedom of speech. There is a level of hostility to freedom of speech that's going on. And of course, the Republicans are criticizing it now, but they have no leg to stand on because they're not for it either. But there are things going on in Europe right now where they canceled an election in Romania because the wrong people won. And I'm sure they were the wrong people. But you know what? Once you start canceling elections, and again, Republicans, no standing to make this case because who's the biggest election canceller than Donald Trump? He tried every which way to cancel the 2020 election, still hasn't conceded it.
You know, he was my old boss. He fired me on The Celebrity Apprentice.
I have to hear this story.
Yeah, because I went out drinking with Dennis Rodman on the night I was the project manager.
First of all, just Dennis Rodman is hysterical, and that you were drinking with him.
Yeah, well, it was after we weren't taping the show. We were done for the day. I had a big job. I was the project manager. You've seen the show before? You know how it works. You have to sort of compete business tasks.
I never watched that show.
It's a business competition, and I sort of fancied myself a pretty good businessman. And we had to build a wedding dress store, and we were competing, the guys versus the girls. I had to sell more wedding dresses than Joan Rivers and Khloe Kardashian and her team, and I had Clint Black and Herschel Walker and Dennis Rodman on my team, right? And so it was very serious, right? But then after I could tell we were kind of going to lose because my team sort of mutinied against me. Scott Hamilton as well, Olympic gold medalist. They kind of wanted to lose and then get me fired, and so I was kind of a little upset about that. So I went out drinking with Dennis Rodman after the show that night, and I guess we were a little hungover in the boardroom the next day, and the president fired me. The president of the United States fired me.
Well, you know, going out drinking with Dennis Rodman, I have to say, is not something that recommends somebody as an employee. Again, that's my thing with Trump.
It was worth it, though. It was worth it, though.
I'm not going to pre-hate everything. Yeah. Firing you, I feel like, was the right move.
Yeah, you're probably right, yeah. It was not a business thing to do.
You know, no, you can't trust anything he says because, like, the next day he changes his mind or whatever, but I think he said last week he wanted to cut the defense budget by 50%. I've been saying that for years. Am I going to hate it now because he says it? That would be hypocritical.
Right. Or get rid of nuclear weapons.
Or get rid of the penny.
Yeah, we don't need those.
Well, we can't get rid of nuclear weapons unilaterally, but we should reduce them.
I think he was talking about trilateral. China, Russia, U.S. sort of plan to lower them.
But I have to know, politics aside, like Dennis Rodman.
Back to this. Yeah.
I'm just very curious. I remember, of course, I'm a basketball fan.
Yeah.
You remember the court? Was that here when you were here? The basketball court? You don't remember that either?
Tommy, tennis court.
Okay, same thing.
Yeah, it was a tennis court. Yeah.
Ben made it into a basketball
court. Okay, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What was I going to say about?
We were talking about
basketball. Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman, yeah.
Big basketball fan. So I remember Dennis Rodman as a player. Mm-hmm. He was
best rebounder, and
yeah. I remember I was in Chicago for some reason in 1996 when they won the championship. The night they did, and I went to this club where they were partying. Mm-hmm. I met him on a championship night, like in the VIP room. It was like, wow, it's really cool being a celebrity. The show had only been on a couple of years, and I was like, wow, this is great.
He was a lot of fun. We had a lot of we became friends when we were there on the show. He was the only one that was kind of sort of not really uptight about the game. He was having fun with it. These reality shows are pretty nuts. Like I assume you've never been on one of these kinds of shows. I got asked to do it, so I did it. It seemed like a fun thing to do, and it was fun to do. But it is sort of like a Stanford prison experiment type of situation.
That's exactly what it is.
And it's clearly purposely orchestrated like that. It's not unintentionally so. I mean, they'll put, the celebrities, the Celebrity Apprentice, it was called, right? So they'll put the celebrities in a room, a room kind of like this, but it'll be
Right.
Dennis Rodman and Herschel Walker and Clint Black and Brian McKnight and Scott Hamilton and myself and a couple other people. And then it'll be a day, a television shooting day. Everyone will come in at, 8 in the morning, and there'll be cameras all around, blocked off with, no camera people in there. And then they just basically don't give you anything to do for like way too long, like 4 hours.
So you'll
and
fight?
There's a cheese plate and a coffee, and then people just, and there's a competition that has some rules, and there's a bit of a hierarchy that they create within the group because there's a project manager who becomes the leader of that group, and then people disagree with the leader, and they all form these little sort of Lord of the Flies type sort of groups. And then they film it, and it's pretty hilarious, usually, and I think that's why people enjoy it. But being actually in there and being actually, you don't want to be piggy, you want.
It does seem, Lord of the Flies. It's so right. It does seem like a lot of reality television in America is about pitting people against each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're a cockfighting, loving nation. We don't people who would not normally, perhaps.
Yeah.
Be fighting.
Exactly. They study this. I don't know for certain, but I would assume they have studied the science of it, and they figure out exactly who's in there and what would get them mad at each other, and
You think they cast it that way also?
I think they cast it that way. I think they
Yeah.
put a bunch of people in there that would probably be maybe a little bit
Right.
nutty. People like myself and Dennis Rodman and Scott Hamilton. Everyone knows Scott Hamilton's a bit of
So
a
you
wild
were
man.
allied with, you had an alliance with Dennis Rodman. That was you were.
To break down the actual game, because it did get pretty serious there for a bit. So in the first episode of my season, each episode someone gets fired. Okay, the first episode, Andrew Dice Clay, my good friend, who I'm sure you know very well, got
I know
fired.
Andy, yeah.
He got fired for he was a bit aggressive with Donald Trump when he asked for in the first episode. Dice kind of was a bit aggressive with Donald Trump because there was not enough butter for the bagels in the green room, and he got angry about it in the boardroom on the show.
My guess is he actually didn't get angry about it. My guess is he sort of.
Well, I think he was doing it for fun, but
I think he likes to play the character of Andrew Dice Clay. That's a character.
Absolutely.
But
I'm very good friends with Dice too. Yes.
But that's not really him.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
And sometimes he just lets the character drive the bus because it's more fun for the character to be mad about the bagels than for him to be a reasonable person.
It was hilarious. I mean, it was so funny. I mean, and it was kind of probably not what you would really do if you were going to try to win the game, to start complaining immediately.
What do you get if you win?
I think you win money for a charity of your choice. That's what it was, yeah. So you don't
Why even try?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, well, it quickly becomes a point of pride to the people in there about trying to prove that they are smart.
What was your charity? Sick kids?
It was a cancer
So
charity.
You fucked a bunch of kids because you and Dennis Rodman wanted to drink.
No. No. By that point, I knew I was not going to be, because I had an alliance against me. You see, Bill, an alliance against. So my team had sort of turned on me and decided to get me fired. So I basically just I threw in the towel pretty much and said, okay.
A rough few years, bro.
Yeah, it was funny.
Fire, divorce.
Yeah.
Trump.
By the president of the United States, too.
Come on,
By
man.
the president of the United States.
Bad reviews from Roger Ebert. This was something was going on in your horoscope. I'm telling you.
Those were kind of, in hindsight, as I look back on it, they become kind of funny. Those things. Those are some of the funniest things that happened.
I mean, when you think of what, to overuse a term that's overused, privilege kind of life we live, where what we do is something we basically consider to be fun. So do we work? Yeah, we work. But I've also had jobs when I was younger. That was work. In other words, I fucking hated it. I didn't want to throw triangles of fish product into a vat of grease.
Is that something you did? Did you ever work as a short order cook somewhere, or in fast food? Have you ever done that?
I'm bragging.
I worked at Dairy Queen.
I'm bragging about Yes, of course.
Which one? Where? Which McDonald's? Or
Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips
Arthur Treacher's Fish and Chips. Cool.
in Ithaca, New York. Arthur
Nice.
Treacher was this old British actor
Okay.
who was Merv Griffin's announcer, like sidekick, like Ed McMahon.
Yeah.
And that was enough in this day. I guess this is the 70s. That was enough for Arthur Treacher to have gotten himself a franchise, because he was British,
Yeah.
a franchise of.
It was like a Kenny Rogers Roasters.
Yeah, exactly.
But with
Except he
Arthur
wasn't
Treacher.
that big a star.
Yeah.
But they had, it was a viable restaurant. It was a fast food shithole
Right.
that I worked in, yes. And
So would you deep fry the fish in a
oh,
fryer?
It would, your arms, because you had to wear a uniform, with short sleeves, and your arms would have all
Because the grease would come up, you'd be burns on your arms. Yeah, I know that. I used to cook I got fired because I miscooked a chicken burger at Dairy Queen. So
these kids who get offended at microaggressions and not that I'm a Marine. I mean, people have had way harder lives than me for lots of reasons.
No,
But
that's definitely not the worst thing that could happen is getting a little chicken grease on your arm.
it really hurt when that shit got and then you'd have just all these red marks on your arm.
Yeah. No, for sure.
It
No,
wasn't
I'm not saying it's
at a time
nothing,
of my life when I was, thinking about asking a girl out.
Mhm.
It wasn't the greatest thing to approach her with red marks all
Right.
over my arms.
Right.
And,
But you had a few bucks though,
I didn't.
because you were working.
I went from that to selling pot in 6 months.
That was
That was
probably
my last.
more lucrative than Arthur
way more
Treacher's.
lucrative and way more fun.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
I didn't smoke until I was a sophomore in college, but I went from first smoking it to selling it in 6 months
Yeah.
because I couldn't afford it otherwise.
See, I have honestly not, I did not, when I first ever tried that, I was kind of later, maybe I was in my 20s, and it made me sort of have a panic attack in a way. I found very paranoid the first time I ever smoked marijuana.
Well, it can.
So
You
why
asked-
does it do that?
You asked me before about eating it.
Yeah,
That's another reason.
right.
It's
It makes you kind of paranoid.
well, it's just it's more like tripping.
Mhm.
It's a 5-6 hour experience.
Yeah.
Which I'm not up for.
Yeah, too much energy required.
I don't have 6 hours
Yeah.
to give to your trip, and you can be almost too high sometimes. It's just you can't control it, and for a control freak, it's just not. It doesn't work.
Exactly.
And I've tried to make it work.
It's a fear of a loss of control, which why does that not always happen though? Why does it happen when people eat that, not when they smoke it then?
I mean, everybody's different, I mean,
I'm having a beer, by the way.
please do.
You drink beer, Bill? Or?
I fucking hate beer.
You hate beer, huh?
I do. I really do.
Why? Why do you hate beer? You just never got into it, or
It stinks. It's like it's cheap.
it's cold?
It's cheap. It's like low level percent.
It's an art form to make beer,
About-
I don't know how they do it, but I know
It's German,
it's like barley and stuff in there, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
all beer tastes different kind of. This is a Pacifico, nice. This is a lager, nice.
I know I could drink it. It doesn't make me rich.
Yeah.
But the idea of drinking something with only 12% alcohol or something.
There's not enough alcohol.
Well,
But
if you're drinking to feel the effect, whatever it does. Like, I always think it kills, say, 5% of my brain cells. Not permanently, perhaps, although I guess they are permanent. Okay. But at the moment, 5%. And for some reason, that makes you, in a way, smarter sometimes. In many ways, stupider, of course. Drunks do the worst things. But, if you could control it, just why do people, have a couple of drinks at dinner? I think it takes down a tension level in people.
Absolutely.
And it makes you just more you.
But a beer with the 12%, it's still kind of a slower kind of tension.
Right.
Yeah. It's just a little more, to me, it's almost like I'm rehydrating a little bit with a beer. It's almost like a glass of water sometimes, You don't have to think of it like you're just drinking it to get drunk or whatever, right? With beer, it's sort of more like just a
I just
Come on, Bill, have a beer.
I
Just have one beer.
no, I just saw this great show. I got to say, I'm a big Billy Bob Thornton fan anyway.
Mhm.
I mean, even if he'd only ever done Bad Santa, I love him. But
Yeah.
he's done a lot of great stuff, and his band is great. I've always been a fan. But
I was in an episode of the Trailer Park Boys with Billy Bob Thornton.
what's that?
Canadian legends, the Trailer Park Boys. Do you know them?
I don't.
They're very funny. You have to have the Trailer Park Boys
What's-
down here on the show.
What does that mean?
Well, it's a TV show up in Canada. Yeah.
The Trailer Park?
Yeah,
one?
yeah. It's been hilarious show. It's been
On
on
now?
It's been on for a long time, but it's like kind of, yeah, it's on now too for sure. Yeah.
You know, my earliest years in comedy were when SCTV was on,
Right.
and I would. I had the one one of the first, I guess, yeah, the first generation certainly of something I could tape off TV. It was like this big,
Right.
and you had to
Oh,
like
you
like a-
recorded on
like-
on a VHS tape? Or,
yes,
or a beta?
a VHS
a
tape, right?
VHS tape. Yeah.
And you would, just like with the old tape recorder, you would have to push like two buttons at the
Mhm.
same time to
Yep.
record, like press and play or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And
Record and play. Yeah.
so it was on Saturday night, SCTV, and that was always a big night to be out at the clubs.
Yeah.
But at the end of that night, I would be like drooling in the cab
Yeah.
going home.
Just to go home and watch
because
that
I'm
VHS
going
tape.
to rewind
Yeah.
and watch SCTV.
Yeah.
It was like just on a level that was
And so that would have been, how old were you when you were watching SCTV? Were you
23.
Yeah.
You know, my first year in comedy.
Yeah.
And living in, oh no, I guess I was, yeah, probably. I'm picturing it in the apartment. I got my main apartment there, which was not a nice place. But I didn't have the dots on my arms anymore, so it got evened out. Yeah, so yeah, 79, 80, around
Nice.
there, 80, 81. I mean, early 20s, and, just at that part in your life where I've never had more anxiety because it was like, am I going to go anywhere in this crazy job I've picked for myself?
Right.
Or, and if not, what?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And can I be happy
Yeah.
doing anything else? Because I always kind of, even when I was a kid, I kind of knew I'm not going to be happy doing anything else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure on
that-
yourself.
And so, yeah,
mean,
I
did
felt
you-
that way. I felt that way. That's
Did
why
you have a backup when you were starting?
I didn't really have much
Yeah?
of a backup plan because I mean I went to school for broadcasting, so I knew I was going to work. I wanted to do something technically at least. I guess I could have done more technical side of the business too. I do like camera work and
Right.
editing and stuff like that. That might have been, but yeah. So it's
Well,
terrifying.
you look like a director.
Well,
You do.
no, I really. What does that look like exactly? Like
I
just
know
a-
you have directed lots
Yeah,
of stuff, but I'm
yeah,
just saying
yeah.
you just look like a director.
Yeah. Well, I
Much more than a farmer.
yeah. Well, it's yeah. So when you get to interview the cast members of SCTV for the first time, how old are you when you first interviewed Martin Short? And what was that like?
Well, Martin Short's become a great friend.
Sure.
Of mine.
So when the first time you met him, though,
You
was
know,
it just kind of an incredibly
if
sort
you,
of weird experience for you?
I'm
or-
guessing you haven't seen this. You should look this up on wherever you YouTube it. But I had a book out last year.
Mhm.
So I was like, in the one-on-one interviews section of the show we do after I do a monologue, it's very often an author. It's a topic. It's a single topic. And it can be anyone. It can be a iconic celebrity. It can be the governor or whatever. But yeah, if somebody has like an amazing book, like Jonathan Haidt has this amazing book that's been on the charts for years, The Anxious Generation, about kids and phones and all that shit. But I was like, okay, but now I'm the person with the book. Can I have someone interview me and I'm the guest?
Yeah.
Well, Jiminy Glick did it for me.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it's like the funniest 10 minutes. I mean, I'm just playing straight man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I did do my part well, but that's just because I understand that what's going on here.
Yeah.
And
you had the VHS tapes.
Get out, yes, get out of the way and
Yeah.
let the genius do his thing, and of course, just play everything straight as if he's a person who deserves an answer. I mean, his first question was, "Why go after Harriet Tubman?"
Right.
I mean, I had to have a tissue box there I couldn't, he
'Cause
is,
but it
there
must-
is a genius to Martin Short that really, he deserves all the accolades he gets.
And it's probably you relate to that character because you probably would like to be Jiminy Glick sometimes when you're interviewing people, I would think, right? Would that be kind of a dream to be able to just sort of one night come out and just say,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, just because it's silly.
Yeah.
Because it's like the comedy of silly, you can't beat it. You can't beat getting someone giggling,
Do you remember when you saw a talk show for the first time? Who was it? And who was your favorite talk show host from before 1980?
Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson. Okay, yeah.
That was my era. I mean, I
Mhm.
was a little.
Of course, it would be. Yeah, but other than Johnny Carson, I guess I would say.
Oh,
We'll talk about Johnny Carson in a
I
second.
mean, he was so, the Zeus of the universe that everybody. I mean, look, one of my great friends in life was Alan Thicke.
Yeah, I knew.
Came with me on my
Canadian.
My first Hawaiian excursion I did for 12 years. I did a thing in Hawaii over New Year's, and he was on that first trip with us. Loved him.
Yeah.
He tried.
Mhm.
And Alan, people never really appreciated what an amazing, dry, sophisticated wit he was, because he was known as the sitcom dad.
Yeah, yeah.
But that wasn't Alan.
So
Alan was like slyly the most hysterical
Mhm.
guy.
In Canada, he had a talk show. I believe it was before the one he had in the U.S. too. So we grew up with Alan Thicke on TV a lot more even.
Let me tell you an Alan Thicke story that's so funny.
He had a show, Thick of the Night, right? Was that?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Thicke. I have the T-shirt.
Yeah,
He got me the T-shirt.
Yeah, he was hilarious. So I got to interview him a couple of times on my web podcast show that I did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so I got to.
Oh, he was a Canadian icon.
The best, yeah. Mhm.
Oh, I loved him. So listen to this. So I remember meeting him one night, and he was newly engaged to Tanya, his third wife.
Okay.
I think she was Miss Columbia.
Okay.
Barry Allen,
Okay.
a beauty pageant winner.
Okay.
But they were like, I mean, it was hysterical because it was like NAFTA, the dry, unflappable Canadian, and then the Sofia Vergara character,
sure.
And I love Tanya. She's awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
But, she's Colombian and fiery. And so it was just hysterical to have them on the trip. But I remember when they got, I met them at a restaurant. It was just me. And I don't know why but I loved him. I saw him a lot. And she's like, she wanted me to notice she finally got the engagement.
Yeah, sure.
And it was, girls do,
Okay.
So then we were joking about that. Okay, great, congratulations. And we were talking about, at the time, his kid was like 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old, Carter. He was playing hockey with that kid who was then 18 when he died.
Yeah, yeah.
So Canadian.
Yes,
to die,
but
to die
at
playing
least
hockey.
a very Canadian
you should
way
get
to
a
go.
special Valhalla salute for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so, I'm asking Alan about the kid, and he loves Tanya. That's great. I said, does he understand sex yet? And Alan said, I don't think so. But he knows it has something to do with the diamond.
with the,
He knows it has something to do with the diamond.
oh, okay. Well, that's funny. He was a great guy. He was a great guy. Yeah.
Canadians, man.
It's tough when
the roster is like so impressive.
I got to know Norm Macdonald when he came to my web show, and he's from my hometown of Ottawa. He grew up blocks away from each other, but he was not at the same time. He was a bit older than me, but I remember I saw him for the first time at Yuck Yucks when I was a kid. I would go down to Yuck Yucks, and he was performing before he was on Saturday Night Live.
Yuck
You know,
Yucks
in Ottawa, I would see him in Ottawa.
where? What city?
Ottawa. You know,
Oh, Ottawa, the
Ottawa.
capital.
The capital. That's where I'm
Right.
from. Yeah. So yeah, and Yuck Yucks is you know, do you know Mark Breslin?
Why
Probably.
didn't I get that gig?
You know, well, you know, you have
Oh,
to be,
really?
yeah, you have to be from Ottawa, and then you
Oh,
probably.
you really? They didn't have American comics?
No, they
Because
did,
we
but
played. I played Montreal and
yeah, no, for sure. It was, but
Toronto.
it was a lot of you know, Canadian comics just started at Yuck Yucks.
I played Winnipeg.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's which one did you play? Have you played in the clubs there? Or Rumors?
I mean, it was 1992.
You ever play the Rumors Comedy Club in Winnipeg? Shout out to Rumors Comedy Club. It's a great comedy club. It's been there since the 80s.
That's probably what I was playing.
Yeah, I think for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Winnipeg's. Did you enjoy your time in Winnipeg, or were you kind of in and out?
I did. I'm not going to tell this story, but I actually had a great time.
Yeah.
But I mean, the reason I got there does not favor well on Winnipeg, but that's not their fault. I only got there because my house had to be tented.
Right.
And I called my agent and I said,
Get me a gig fast. Well, we got Winnipeg. Okay, whatever. Let's go. That kind of thing. That's cool.
Exactly.
Well, you know, I've had a lot of fun in Winnipeg. You know, it's good. Go Jets. You know, Canadian city. But
Well, Canadians.
I don't know. There's really a reason why their team is called the Jets. By the way, the hockey team is the Winnipeg Jets, but I don't think there's really a lot of Jets or
No,
anything in Winnipeg.
I love Canada.
Yeah, yeah,
I love the people. I have some serious connections with friends
absolutely.
there. And I remember moments there that would never happen in America, like somebody refusing a tip.
Right.
I remember somebody doing that, pushing the money back and saying, "You've been generous enough." And I said, "You know, in America, you could be arrested for that." Refusing money?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, boys.
Yeah. You've been to every city in Canada, probably, right?
No, but certainly on the tour was always
Toronto. You've been to Toronto.
Of course, Toronto.
You love Toronto.
Toronto.
Vancouver. You've been to Vancouver.
Yes, Toronto.
Have you been to Ottawa, the capital?
No. I'm saying I never played Ottawa.
I don't think you have been to Ottawa. You got to come to
Montreal.
Ottawa. Got to come to Ottawa.
Well, I'm not doing it anymore, so
You're not going
yeah,
on the road anymore?
I just stopped as of.
I did hear you say that, but I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if I believed it or not. But you're like 100% stopped, or just like slowing?
Well,
You can still go and do a couple shows a year if you want. Or?
you know what? I really feel you can't, because you have to be in practice to do stand-up. At least the way I want to do it.
Because you would feel every time you got up, you'd
No,
feel
you
like
have
you
to
were not
I mean, I've kept
in a groove. Yeah.
for 42 years. I've had an act. Like there was my life on TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there was my act. Now there was stuff that bled between them. It was very good.
How often are you? I mean, I don't know if people like to hear about writing and stand-up sets, but how often do you try to slide that material out, or do you keep some jokes for years?
I never try. I
Yeah.
never try.
Yeah.
But I mean, well, now I don't even have to worry about it because I'm not doing it. But
Right.
for years,
But hypothetically, if you
What?
were still doing it,
there were. I'm not going to say there aren't things that were written for real time that didn't wind up in my act. There are, but mostly I wrote that myself. It was just stand up is just much more personal than like doing a monologue each week, which is really just about the events of that week. It's not. It's very impermanent. You know. A stand-up act. I just did a special. They can watch that for years. Not everything will like.
it takes a lot out of you just having to exude that kind of emotional energy live every weekend. You know?
I like that part. I mean,
is it the anticipation of it? Is there anxiety
it's
that you
the
get before
travel.
the show? The travel, just exhaustion. Yeah, it's exhausting. Yeah.
It's like, you know, when I said I wasn't going to do it at the end of the beginning of last year, and we didn't book anything for this year. All year, I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to be doing this after this. You know, there's 8 more gigs, there's 6 more gigs, there's 4 more gigs.
It's not a legal contract. I mean, you can always change your mind at any time.
That's why I never made an announcement.
You decide next year, I think I will do it again.
But I was like really wondering, when it comes to it next year, am I really going to be okay with this? And you know what happened? I was right. Like,
Maybe another year you might
I
start
just don't
get the itch
like.
for it. You know.
A couple of weekends ago would have normally been, as it has been for so many years, the weekend when I first went out back on the road. The third weekend in January, the holidays are over. Okay, people go to a show again. I was so glad I didn't have to fucking drag my ass out of bed on a Saturday and go to Cincinnati. Not that I don't love Cincinnati or whatever it was.
Mhm.
I just wanted to be home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it. You know, it's not that I couldn't. I'm not crippled in any way, people. I mean, it's not like
Well, it's
I just don't fucking feel like it.
yeah. Did you ever take a break before for a year or two?
Never.
Never. Yeah, exactly. So that's why it
Never.
feels weird. But it doesn't mean you can't take a break. Just
I-
because you've never done it before doesn't mean you can't take a break. It could just be a break.
There's
Maybe you're
other
just taking a
things-
break.
There's other things to do.
Yeah, but maybe it's just a break. Maybe
Maybe-
it could be a 5-year break.
Yeah. But you don't have, I mean,
I just don't think you should set it in stone. I don't want you to see you quit doing stand-up just because you decided to
But
quit when you-
stand-up is just a medium.
Yeah.
It's a medium for ideas.
Yeah.
That's what this is in its own weird way.
Absolutely.
And there are people who will
Having another.
watch us do this
Yeah.
who wouldn't watch us do anything else. And I get that. I am not that, but I get that. Because it's just like there are people who want to hear a jam band
Mhm.
instead of something polished.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's personal taste. And I get it. And I'm fine. But I want both. I want to have a jam band, and I also want to make Abbey Road every week on real time.
Right. And
You
that's
know?
what I was actually about to ask you why you built a television studio in your basement here. Or
I mean,
but there's the answer. That's the answer. Yeah, it's fun. This is
yeah.
kind of like you can just kind of.
But it's still, I didn't change anything in this room. This room was always so cool. I mean, it was a mess when I got it, and I think Drew is the person who built that tiki bar up. It looks, that thing that
Yeah.
looks like you're in Mexico.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I was told, I don't know how I know that.
Yeah. I
because
think that's true. Actually,
I think
yeah.
it is
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
It's beautiful. I still love it.
Yeah,
If you,
yeah.
As a place to like,
That was. I think she built that before I knew her.
well, I'm going to have a party this summer and invite both of you.
Yeah.
It's time you reconnected. Oh, wait, you're married.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, well, I was going to say, relating to stand-up, what I've been doing since the pandemic is, how do you describe when you say since, do you say since COVID or since the pandemic?
Yeah,
Either one.
either one.
When the pandemic happened, that's when I kind of moved, right? I moved back to Canada.
Oh, that was the impetus.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was kind of like, because I'm touring all the time, and my tour was canceled for the whole year, and I was sitting there going, okay, I didn't have a TV show to go to every day, so I'm sitting around my house going like, what the heck am I going to freaking do this weekend?
Right.
And so I got this camper van. I got my dog Charlie. I started going out into the deserts out here and filming some stuff basically just because I wanted to go check out the desert, but filming some stuff for social media. And then I decided to move back sold my house, moved back to Canada. Sure, thank you very much.
What'd you do with that other one I gave you?
I smoked it. No, here it is, right here.
Yeah.
There it is. There you go. Thank you.
That
Trade
sounds-
you.
That sounds like a conversation I would have had at 19.
Yeah.
What'd you do with that one? The other one.
Exactly.
I
It's exactly
smoked it.
that.
Oh no, I didn't smoke it.
It's exactly what it was. But I got this camper van, and so now I'm touring. You have that?
Oh, no, I don't smoke. I don't smoke pot, Tom.
I'm touring with my. I'm now driving on my touring more. Is what I'm getting at. I haven't been going to the airport and flying out. Instead, I've been doing these. So I drove here from Canada in a camper van.
Oh,
Right now.
What?
Yeah. So I left Canada
That's so Tom Green of
in my camper van with my fiance and my dog, and we drove and we did gigs
you
all the
two
way
must
down.
Be close
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun though.
to be able to be together all day long in a camper.
It's going well. I mean, it's.
No, I'm not doubting it or wishing
She's still
it.
here. She's here.
No, I get
She
it.
didn't go. She didn't leave yet. She's still here. She didn't fly home.
What is it? What is it that you think allows one person to be like so easy on your just vibe that you can be around them all the time? Because a lot of I feel like success in a relationship is that. Can you just be around somebody
Yeah.
and feel almost as calm as you do when you're alone?
Yeah.
You don't fart.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Not that
I
calm,
try not to do
not that, no, not that comfortable. Are we agreed?
Well, I mean, I'm not
Oh.
going to say what I'm guilty of in the terms of farting too much department, but
I-
I don't try to fart a lot, if that's what we're talking about here, Bill.
Okay, well, the only fart that ever should happen in your mutual space,
Yeah,
I believe, is an inadvertent fart.
Yeah.
That can
yeah. Okay.
The way you're like, yes, of course.
I'm
Now
thinking.
here on Meet
I'm
the
trying
Press.
to think whether I agree with that. Or not. So
no, I mean, well, you can't help it. It's like a nocturnal. I
but
mean,
this
but
isn't
you,
really, honestly, this isn't really the first thing I want to talk about when talking about my new engagement. And my
Well,
fiance,
I'm
you know,
tell-
she's amazing, and that's why we're having a lot of fun. She puts up with the absurdity of this idea of traveling around in a camper. But we are staying in hotels. You know, when we're not.
she loves it.
No, we're having a lot of fun. We're having a lot of fun. Oh, it's
Are you
amazing.
funny all the time?
Not, I get kind of. I'm pretty tired right now. Now that you mentioned me, because I drove here in a camper van.
That's
I
amazing.
slept in the Mojave
I
Desert
appreciate it so much.
4 nights ago.
I really appreciate
It's beautiful
you
out there.
putting out like
Have you ever
that.
slept out in the Mojave Desert?
Fuck no.
It is so beautiful out there.
I'm sure it is, but there's also.
Seeing the sunset coming up over the mountains in the Mojave Desert with
Oh my
making some
God.
coffee. Just
Oh my God.
you drink coffee?
I do, but not in the middle of nothing in the morning.
Well, that's why does that sound bad? It's not nothing. There's beautiful
Oh, I know.
cactuses and
It
wildlife
just,
and
you know what it is? It's just
flora and fauna.
we're at different stages of life. Not
Yeah.
that I would do it at 53 either.
Right. No,
But
exactly.
especially
It's just not your thing. You're just not a
at
guy.
my
You just
age.
don't
No,
go camping.
I want a
Have you ever been camping?
I want a comfortable bathroom.
Have you ever gone camping?
A comfortable bathroom. Okay, I think after comfortable bathroom,
Yeah.
you get the. It's just
Have
like
you ever slept in a tent?
no,
Wow, really? That's amazing.
never
Well,
slept.
I'm not sleeping. I'm sleeping in a camper van. It's scary sleeping in a tent.
I once,
Animals can tear through that tent, and
I did not sleep in a tent, but I once
terrifying,
slept
actually.
in a hammock.
Okay, for like
You'll never guess where.
uh,
On Frankie Valley's tour bus.
you're right. I would have never guessed that.
I am right, aren't I?
Would have never guessed that. No,
That's right.
that's amazing. So, and was that just kind of was he a friend of yours, or?
No, I was opening for him,
Yeah, that's cool.
and
What year would that have been?
that would have been 1982.
And what venues would you be performing that are still around today?
Are you familiar with Wolf Trap in Washington, D.C.?
Okay, no, I don't know that.
No, Wolf Trap is very famous.
Okay, cool.
A lawn, seating and then a lawn. It's a big summer.
Oh, nice.
Unless you're playing like stadiums,
Yeah.
nobody turns their nose up at Wolf Trap in the summer.
That's cool.
James Taylor with Jackson Brown.
Right.
Wolf Trapper.
Yeah.
So that was one. This
Sort of
was
like a Hollywood Bowl kind of.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Got
sort of
some
like a Hollywood.
gravitas to it, but you're outside. It's like camping, but you're not. You're watching a show.
Yeah, yeah. Jim
Sort
McCann.
of like camping. You feel like you did something in the nature.
Right. Blanket.
Yeah,
A blanket
exactly.
may involve.
But you've
be
never really
involved.
never gone camping. Anyways,
Ooh.
it's fun because you get into nature and you really kind of
I
ensconce yourself in that. It's a very calming, a relaxing thing to do.
I think nature's a great town.
Yeah.
I love nature. I do. I live amid nature.
Yeah,
I feel
absolutely.
like I don't. That's one reason I don't need to do that is because I feel like I see a lot of greenery and stuff that isn't urban every day.
Yeah.
Because you burned your house down.
Yeah.
It always is going to come back to that, Tom.
Now, I did not do it, by the way, for the record.
No, nobody did it. I'm joking. For the record, it was a fire.
I knew you were joking. I just wanted to put it on the record that I did not do it. Just in case there was any confusion.
I'm very glad
Some
we
people
did.
might.
No, they.
No, I know there was no reason for them to think that, but some people
No,
still
there
get
is-
confused and think the wrong thing. I just want to make sure I did not burn the house down.
Well, there's just too many people in America with time on their hands, and they also have access to the internet. So if they can just start some shit for no reason because it entered their mind, they will do it.
So is it more fun doing television when you have the internet as well as a factor, or is it more fun doing television when there was no internet? Because you seem like you're having a lot of fun with the internet. So I would expect that you would say that, but I'd expect you would say that it was probably, this is more fun to have this kind of, but then you also have to deal with the complexity of all that kind of just energy on the internet that we're talking
You
about.
know, you asked me about, I don't know how long we've been here, like 6 hours or maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
could be either one. But at some point you asked me about something that is frustrating, which is you said, what about when they take like clips
Right,
to
exactly.
just,
Because you
and
lose control over,
it's like, it's amazing when you are somebody who's in the middle like me, and not in the middle like in a namby-pamby way, and it's just like, yeah, I'm a proud old school liberal, but no, I'm not going to go along on the crazy train to Nonsenseville. So when you're in there,
Mhm.
oh, what were we talking about? It was so important to me.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, yeah, what were we talking about, Bill?
Oh, good.
No,
Now we're both too fucking high to remember what the conversation was about.
no, but I knew exactly what we were talking about until you questioned it, and then it made me sort of second guess myself, and now my mind's gone blank. What the hell were we just talking about, Bill?
I don't know, but if this is what Alzheimer's is like,
Yeah.
it's not that bad.
No, I mean,
I think they're making a bigger deal out of
sitting
that
around
shit.
in these extremely soft chairs, by the
I
way.
don't feel like it's.
I got a beer. This is incredible. When
it's
what we were talking about, okay, is before the internet.
yes,
doing
we
a
were talking
television
about
show.
clips,
Yeah.
and how they just.
I know what
take-
we were talking about. I just pretended we didn't see
Good
what
for
happened.
you. Good
but
for
of course,
you.
I actually want to know the answer too because
I want to give you the answer.
Yeah.
Because it is very
Thank you.
frustrating that when you're in the middle, that's what I was saying,
Mhm.
and you over the course of an hour of real time,
Yep.
you can take like 3 or 4 great clips for you on Fox News and show them where I'm calling the left out on their bullshit,
Mhm.
or occasionally saying, yeah, that this is not the stupidest idea I ever heard of.
Mhm.
And then you can do the same thing on the left-wing stations. You can, if you want to make me look good to your audience, you can show all the times I'm excoriating Donald Trump
Yeah.
and calling out that administration and then that list of things I hate.
Right.
Or if you hate me on liberal media, just show the ones where I'm saying the things that the Fox News crowd likes.
So I'm saying you
So
sort of,
I can't, watch the whole show.
you lose control of the narrative because the wrong clips go out.
And people just want to hear what they already believe fed back to them. So if you already believe on the left that I'm some sort of red-pilled person who's now become a conservative, you can be fed things where all you see me doing is saying, yeah, I don't hate this. Let's get rid of the penny or whatever it is.
Right.
And then you can do it, you can manipulate, and they do, because that's what feeds their kitty.
Mhm.
They want those same eyeballs coming back to them.
Mhm.
So,
that's
it's a
frustrating.
lonely place in the middle. It can be a lonely place.
Yeah.
Fuck them. I don't care. I've got my middle people.
Yeah. So before the internet, you didn't have to, but there were still people who would write about the show.
Well, they got my first show canceled.
Yeah, exactly.
You
So
know.
there was still this sort of different kind of
Yeah, but then it was
energy pushback.
Yeah.
But this is a little bit.
I
so,
was canceled when it was like literal. Like we're actually canceling you. We're using that word
Yes, right.
to make sure you're not
Have
doing
you been
your-
credited with coining that term?
No,
Possibly.
no.
You don't want to be credited with that.
No, and also, I mean, the things like people had been fired
Those
on
were crazy times. It was 9/11, right?
9/11.
That was crazy times, and that's that
Good.
was that the beginning of this sort of new kind of crazy that we're seeing in our politics?
Well, I mean, that was okay. So I moved in here January of 2001, which is actually 2000 is still, I think, technically the last century. I think the first year of the 21st century. So we're literally days into the 21st century.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
is could be something if you were the kind of person who believed in spooky stuff. Okay. So I move in here January, and you're already here, and then the house burns down, and then 9/11. I'm wondering maybe it's you, Tom. Maybe. No. Is that a crazy theory?
I mean, it's a heavy thing to blame me with for sure. Yeah, it's like it's a lot for me to consider. No. You know, it's crazy though. Was that the beginning of that's the beginning of kind of this sort of things weren't as political before that. I
Well,
mean, it seems weird to say. Obviously, things have been political forever, but doesn't it seem
I
like
think what you
have there
mean,
not been sort of a
what
reprieve on this kind of divisive politics or something for 10 years or 20 years?
it literally goes back to
I don't remember it being that crazy.
I know, but
Reagan.
it goes through periods. I mean, the period when you were a formative youth,
Yeah.
you're right. They were always at each other's throats, but there was a civility to it, and
Right.
also they both played by the rules.
That's exactly what I was asking.
Like,
Yeah, because
I mean, in 2000,
Mhm.
Al Gore lost or didn't. There was a lot of shenanigans. They talk about shenanigans with Trump in 2020. There was no shenanigans
yeah,
in
yeah,
2020. No shenanigans.
Yeah.
I could quote all the people who were involved, the election commission, many of his own appointees. It was one of the smoothest, fairest, they had their eyes on it for good reason.
there were hanging
election.
chads.
That was 2000, right.
That was Gore or Bush,
Hanging
right?
chads.
Was that Gore Bush?
The
Hanging
Secretary
chads.
of State was a Republican in the state of Florida. The governor was Jeb Bush,
Okay.
the guy's brother.
Right. Well, that's where the chads were being counted.
Okay.
In Florida.
Whatever it was, you know what? The truth is, Al Gore
Yeah.
and Bush, they played to a tie.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, the Republicans had the Supreme Court, and that was it. And Al Gore said, yeah, you know what? I got robbed, but for the good of the team. That's gone with Trump.
Yeah.
That's why the people who think, you know, oh, Bill, you know, you're so clear-eyed about the problems on the left. Yeah, I am, but I'm not coming over to your side. That's so much worse that you guys will not acknowledge when you lose an election. That is a non-negotiable with me. You know, we can't talk about it. That's it. That's the essence of the country.
Yeah. So
I'm moving to Canada is what I'm saying. By the way,
we'd love to have you, Bill.
my girl, Christia Freeland, and I say my girl like I'm really close and I'm not, but...
You should move to Canada, by the way.
No, but she used to be on Real Time.
Okay.
And now she's going to be the Prime Minister.
Okay.
I'm a big fan.
Okay.
She was always great on the show.
Who is it?
Christia Freeland.
Oh, Christopher Freeland. Oh, yes, right. I didn't hear you were talking about Christopher Freeland. She's been on Real Time.
Yeah.
She's great. Yeah, well, let's
she
see what
was
happens.
the minister.
She
was a minister, I forget what department, but she was very important.
Finance, I believe.
In the Trudeau government.
Yeah, I believe she,
and then
minister.
quit.
Yeah.
And said she basically didn't believe in him anymore. And
that come up and campaign on her
behalf?
behalf?
That to me is the woke versus liberal debate in Canada, the one I'm having here.
Yeah.
And I'm her.
Yeah.
You think I'm her?
Do you think she could be the next? She could be next.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think she's smart.
Trudeau resigned,
savvy,
but it has still not been an election as of yet. So they're going to calling an election soon, and there's going to be a leadership race on the Liberal Party.
Because
Christia Freeland is running for leader of the Liberal Party, there's also Mark Carney as well as another highly
parliamentarians.
Yeah, I am I'm not personally one, but parliamentarian.
Your country.
I used to go up there. I used to go up to the Parliament buildings all the time, though, when I was a kid in Ottawa. You know, I used to go down there and just play soccer on the front lawn of the Parliament buildings. Yeah. So.
Are you kidding? Or you?
No, I actually did do that. Yeah. Yeah.
Because?
Because I was doing a college radio show in downtown Ottawa. And I would say at the end of the show on midnight till 2 a.m. every Friday night, I'd say, anyone want to come meet me on the front lawn of the Parliament buildings? Bring a soccer ball and some pizza, and we'll go play soccer out there till 4 a.m. And then we go and we play soccer on the. Not to cut you off with that story, but
No. It's so. No,
that
I
was
love
one of the fun things I love to do in Ottawa. That's why I when we talk about the Canadian government and Trudeau and all the elections and all that stuff that's going on out there, I also think of it sometimes just in like real personal terms. I basically grew up in Ottawa. Something when you say Parliament, for instance, I think about how beautiful our Parliament buildings are. Have you seen our Parliament buildings? Have you seen them before, Bill? Quite beautiful buildings, by the way.
I wanted to start that way.
Yeah.
When I got to Cornell,
yeah,
I want what you're describing. I wanted to get on the college radio and be the college funny prankster on there. I thought that was going to be my first entree.
Yep.
And
It was the easiest way to get
I did not succeed.
into broadcasting, though, was through
Yeah.
radio, right?
No, I mean,
Did you do radio for
I'm
a
telling
while?
you, this is very evocative for me to hear you talk about it, because when I went off to Cornell,
Yeah.
I had already wanted to be a comedian for 10 years.
Yeah.
I just kept it inside.
Mhm.
So now I'm away from home. I really wanted to be in New York, like hanging out at the clubs, but I got to go to college first. And I thought, yeah, that's it. And I remember practicing, like in my room, like to say things like pre ad libs
Right,
that I
right.
could say.
And just announcing
Yeah.
and yeah.
And I never even got the nerve to go audition.
Really?
Yeah.
You wanted to do radio, but you just
I
never.
was a shy person. I was very, very shy as a teenager, a kid as a teenager, and into college.
So at what moment do you get up on stage then? At what age? And
I-
how does
I-
that decision get made?
The first time I ever got on stage was in high school. I emceed the talent show,
Yeah.
and it was so exhilarating to get laughs
Right.
that I was hooked like a drug I've never had since.
Yeah.
And the next time I got up on stage was at Cornell. They had poetry readings on like Thursday afternoon in the Temple of Zeus coffee shop. And I got up there when people are doing poems.
Wow.
And I tried to do like material.
Stand up, sure, yeah.
Well, it was like a top 10 list.
They must have loved that. No, I mean,
It was
it's got to be better than poetry, you know?
It was like something like,
I mean, I like poetry.
you know,
but
you're
I'd rather see someone attempt stand-up than someone sincerely pull off poetry, to be honest with you. It's fun even watching stand-up when it fails, really, sometimes. But in that environment in college, it must have been good. So did you do that regularly then, or was
well,
it
then I mean, all the time I was in college, I was like, sort of like, why am I here learning about Homer when I should be like in New York
say philosophy?
telling jokes? I studied all the liberal arts stuff. I got an English major degree, but history, English, classics. I loved mine. The education they gave me at Cornell, I cannot front. Awesome. And I'm a different person because of it. One who can survive in a cocktail party with anybody.
Yeah.
Not dominate, but survive. And not be laughed out of the room.
Right.
With any group except astrophysicists, not science, but
Yeah.
anybody.
They don't party anyways.
But so I give
astrophysicists, they don't really ever go out.
Well, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson gets down.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Yeah, I guess
I've
you
been
know
out
more than
with
I do.
Neil.
About you've probably
No,
met
he's
more.
just
You've met more astrophysicists than me, so I wouldn't really know. I was just speaking off of a hunch, basically.
He's just a fun guy.
Yeah.
You know, not only when you see him on my show or any show, but like I've been with him at Seth MacFarlane's parties, and you know, he's just a great guy to hang with. And you don't always, he doesn't always want to talk about astrophysics. You know, he would like actually a break from that, I think.
Yeah.
Like with people.
Yeah, it's because do people come up and ask him sort of technical questions that they really need answered about
I mean,
like, the
it's
universe?
just it's like seeing Rocky and wanting to punch him in the jaw.
Right.
It's just,
right.
It's.
I don't want to talk about the wormholes or string theory anymore.
That's it. Who else are you gonna throw that question to? That
So
I see an asteroid is heading toward Earth.
The astronauts?
I said I see an asteroid is heading toward Earth.
Absolutely. I know 2032. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also, I thought you were talking about the astronauts that are stuck up there, that are...
No, I just think it's a great conversation
it's
breaker
nice,
there.
Absolutely nice.
I see an asteroid.
The entire planet is going to be destroyed in 10 years. What are you planning on doing about that?
It's a good question. 7 years, actually, Tom. But
I was never really good at math, but yeah.
Well,
2032, okay.
I'm torn between
really 7 years,
trying to survive and kissing my ass goodbye.
Saying making an extra effort to survive 7 years so you can see the asteroid, or would you rather just
I mean, if it's
not have to witness that?
If it's going to hit and wipe out all life on Earth, I want it to hit me right in the head.
Right. Please make it a direct
I don't want to be, I want to be part of the cleanup committee.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think they're so exasperated by this? Because I assume it's the same reason why the dinosaurs were wiped out, because it's not the asteroid itself that's going to dent the Earth so bad. It's that it creates
the whole atmosphere is full of dust, and then the sun is bluffed out, and it becomes frigid winter, and we all freeze to death. Except for those few hardy enough ones who dug little shelters for themselves and lived off freeze-dried noodles for the next generation, essentially.
How do you think it would
Do you want to
affect?
be part of that group that ate freeze-dried noodles underground for a generation to try to repopulate the earth, or would you rather have a direct hit? You say direct hit.
Well, when you put it that way,
You get to continue. You could probably open up a little, comedy club in there or something like that. Keep everybody entertained. Repopulate the earth eventually because of you keeping everybody.
underground
There'd
comedy,
be stuff to do.
literally underground
There'd be
comedy.
stuff to do. Yeah.
Uh,
So when you built the studio here, has it been? This has got to have been a lot of fun, right? Like,
I'm telling you,
it's fun having.
It hasn't changed at all.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
just a
I'm not
couple of-
talking about the structure. Just when you
Oh.
put the cameras in and started doing the show here, that must have been a lot of fun, right? I mean, are you?
What's fun is that I wouldn't be here with you without it,
Yeah.
which is a shame because I'm having such a great time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always liked you. I mean, I was disappointed we never got to be friendlier when you were the neighbor. I always thought you were just an innovator, and so that's what's great about a podcast is that it's like you can summons people. No, they don't have to answer the summons,
Yeah.
but it's like I
Yeah,
would like to talk to you.
So I had built a studio in my house in 2005. I had a lot of people over and did a lot of interviews, and I got to make so many good friends. I got to know Norm Macdonald, I mentioned, who I was idolized growing up, and then I got to know him and become friends with him. But he that's a great thing about doing this. It's fun. So but you've got you've got a studio here. There's
Yeah, we have to. I mean, look, I'm trying to make it the least like a studio.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, there has to be cameras and people operating them somewhere, I assume. I don't get involved with the details.
So other than Johnny Carson, before 1980, who was your favorite?
Well, I'll tell you who else was
including David Letterman. Okay.
David Letterman didn't come along till
That's-
1982.
That's why I say before.
Right,
It was out
right.
of the
Yeah.
all of the others.
Right.
Merv Griffin, Jack
Yeah.
Parr.
I mean, the people.
Steve
Well,
Allen.
Jack Parr was before my time.
Did you like Jack Parr? I bet you like Jack Parr.
As I say, before my time.
But I mean, have you gone back and looked at his
all
work?
I know about Jack Parr. No, I really haven't.
Oh, really?
All I know about Jack Parr
He was great.
is that my parents spoke well of him.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But my parents are sophisticated, so that I can.
He
but
was a
the
bit
way-
of a shit disturber too, though.
Yes, he
quit,
was.
He quit on the air.
Yes.
And then he came back a week later and went back in the air and said some funny line like,
No.
And I said, there's got to be because when he quit, he said, there's got to be a better way to make a living than this. And he quit on NBC Live, walked off. And then he went away to Africa. And then he came back and the show was still a hit. They gave him the show again after he quit. He came back live on NBC and he said,
Right.
I went and had a look, and when I left, I said there was got to be a better way to make a living than this. I went and had a look, and it turns out there isn't, And then he continued the show for like another, I don't know how many years, few years, not too much longer. But and
I
then,
mean,
and then
it's
it was
amazing
Steve
that-
Allen after that.
It's amazing that he had to have that revelation.
Or no, it was Johnny Carson after Jack Parr, right?
Yes.
Steve Allen, Jack Parr, Johnny Carson.
Correct.
Yeah.
Jack Parr, I know, was 57 to 62, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was a toddler.
Some
Carson.
incredible interviews though with Jack Parr. He interviewed Kennedy.
Well, I mean, again,
Muhammad Ali, and all the sorts
right.
of people that.
Well, first of all, the country was so different.
Mhm.
The people were. Johnny Carson also used to do an author every night. An author?
Yeah.
Can you imagine an
The
author?
show was the show 90 minutes at one
Yes,
Yeah.
it was 90
in
minutes
the
at
beginning,
one point.
yeah.
You know,
Every night, yeah.
Yeah. The country was different, and so the talk show hosts reflected that.
Mhm.
Johnny Carson himself, as great as he was, wouldn't survive today. Too slow.
Mhm.
Attention spans are different.
Mhm.
People's just with the phone and
Yeah.
the pace of things
Yeah.
and the depth of understanding.
Mhm.
No, you can't do the show he did, and that was just into the early 90s.
Mhm.
Then Jay Leno was the right guy for the right time.
Yeah. It's always been very controversial, the whole hierarchy in talk television.
It is interesting. It is sort of like royal family position in the country, you know,
That's
like
American.
the talk show person who,
Yeah.
and you know, it's a reflection of where I think, well, it was where the middle was. I mean, Johnny and Letterman and Leno, they were in the middle.
Yep.
Now talk shows are just, all of them are to very far left.
Yeah.
Not to say I wouldn't agree with them on most of those issues,
Yeah.
but they do not attempt to please anybody except the people who are already voting for Kamala Harris. If you're not voting for her, you are not going to feel welcome watching this. You're not going to feel welcome
Exactly.
watching Saturday Night Live.
Exactly. Yeah, and it seems like it's become kind of the priority is to talk about that subject and to talk
mean-
politics. It used to be a one joke about Reagan or something, and then we move on. It's the whole monologue's about politics, and it's all about the sort of social issues.
Oh,
There's
well,
no, not as much.
that is, yes. I mean, and Leno and Carson, and Letterman did jokes about what was going on politically also, but they found a way to do it in a way that wasn't obvious where their feelings were.
Yeah.
And there was plenty to be made, as there always is on both sides.
Yeah.
But that's not where we are now.
Why is that? Why isn't there not a more, like, what is it because it's just social media has divided things so much that you have to pick a side firmly? Is that what it is? Or because does the internet made that happen? Because the shows have their internet, so they get all these comments coming through.
I think
we better appease these comments. And,
well, it starts with Fox News.
Okay.
That's the beginning of the problem. There was no such thing as Fox News, like a right-wing media. Every media organization tried to be down the middle.
Right.
That's why Leno and Letterman and Carson tried to be
being a non-biased observer.
You're not saying to one half of the country, we don't even bother. I mean, twice when Trump won, Saturday Night Live did not do an opening sketch. They had a fucking dirge. Now, they just had their big 50th anniversary. Look, Lorne Michaels, I don't know him, never worked for him.
Canadian.
But, Canadian, yes.
Yeah.
And
I'm just going to say, anytime you mention a
this,
Canadian, I'm going to say they're Canadian, just so you know.
And he's the biggest Canadian.
Yeah.
Because literally nobody even comes close to the effect this guy has had on comedy for a half a century. I mean, it would be easier to name the comedy movie stars who weren't coming through the Saturday Night Live factory. I mean, not to mention the several late night franchises, just the stamp on the industry.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Is just enormous. But to have a dirge, okay, so I'm reading this article about him, and he says, I said to the cast, and maybe this is in the early days, you know, we're playing to all 50 states. Well, you're not anymore. Or at least not all people in 50 states. Trump wins. Like, I didn't vote for him either. But I wouldn't do a fucking funeral, like where the cast is there somberly. Oh, we're here. Yeah, it's still America.
Yeah.
You're fine. Most people will be fine. Yes, there's a lot of shit I don't like. I've got a whole hate list. But this is how America voted. America, I thought you loved democracy, but you can't do a sketch. You can't be funny. You have to, like, tell us how in mourning you are. That shit leaves me cold.
Do you feel it's too partisan? For sure.
Is that what you got out of that story?
SNL was. I mean,
half the
be
like
more
they
of
won the
equal
election,
sure.
And you're a comedy show, and the left is so far from perfect.
Yeah.
So the idea that we have to have
There was always sort of politics in SNL, but now more so than ever. I mean, it was Gerald Ford fell down a flight of stairs.
Yeah, but that's not what's political about that.
Yeah, exactly. So. So yeah, why is that though? Why has everything gotten so political?
Because I think it began with Fox News.
Right, exactly.
And then I think they politicized news gathering.
It's not the internet; it was cable TV.
I think that's the beginning.
When the beginning of the division happened, because it was competing for viewers.
Yeah.
He had to split the audience and
right. Well, first of all, they felt that
there was three channels. and Walter Cronkite's on at night.
Well,
They
4
can
with
be
Fox.
not. They can be non-biased and or to be
Right.
central. And but
Well,
then when the cable came in,
okay,
that was,
now Fox News would say, yeah,
CBS never went right wing and NBC went left
well,
wing back in
that's
1953 to compete against each other.
exactly what I'm getting to.
Yeah.
Fox News would say,
Mhm.
not without some merit, that it was necessary
Mhm.
to have a right-wing media organization because the majority of the media had gone so far left and was in the pocket of the left.
Yeah.
Now, there is some truth to that.
Okay.
It got crazy worse, but this is not how it was then. But just as an example, there was a whistleblower at NPR
Mhm.
last year, a guy who worked there. I think his name was Uri Berliner. Okay. And he just didn't like the fact that you were squelched if you tried to present anything other than the super, super duper far woke left point of view on NPR.
Right.
So it comes out that of the 87 top managers at NPR, the number who voted Democratic was 87.
Right. Okay.
Now, even if you're a Democrat, that's not a good thing.
No.
That's when you have, that's incest, that's intellectual incest.
Mm-hmm,
And you know what incest produces?
mm-hmm. Well, it's is it just because is it regional? I mean, you travel around the country, so you know is that what it is? Just because most television has always come out of New York and Los Angeles, I guess, right? So this is what happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, the media definitely has an enormous effect on how the country's mores change, often for good. Gay marriage would never have happened if Americans didn't see gay people in sitcoms
Mhm.
acting like regular people
Right. Sure.
and not horrible people
Sure.
and
Yeah.
people you love.
Mhm.
And and that was a great thing.
That happened after cable too. You'd say with
Well,
that.
that happened when was Will and Grace on?
Yeah. So cable when the TV expanded, there was So yeah.
But it was a network show.
Yeah, network show. Yeah.
And I'm sure there were other shows. And, I mean, when I was a child, it was a scandal because at the end of a duet in the late 60s, Harry Belafonte, a black man, like planted, I think, a little kiss on the cheek of a white girl and like
Sure.
lost all the Southern affiliates.
Yeah.
Okay, and then at some point, Tom Cruise kissed Thandie Newton in a mainstream movie in
William Shatner as well. In Star Trek.
Kiss green chicks.
Canadian, by the way.
Yeah, and has sat there in that chair twice.
It must be fun to hang out with
I
Shatner.
love him.
Yeah.
I love him.
You know, he was my first landlord in Los Angeles.
I thought you were going to say first lover.
No,
But
no.
that's
Not what I said at all.
I know, but it's
But he's a good guy, though.
But why can't we just go with that? It's a better story.
When I moved up, when I came to MTV, I rented a house, and
Is that right?
He owned the house and rented
Wow.
to me, and he was he'd come over and say hi once in a while. Great, a lot of fun. Yeah, great guy.
Yes.
Must be fun to sit to talk to. I've never gotten to interview him. I've gotten to interview people though. I've done quite a few interviews over the years. I enjoy it. I enjoy.
Well, I
like,
couldn't help but
what-
notice you fall naturally into that role. You're doing more interviewing than I am. I'm sitting here stoned. You're the guy who's like, and I love it. I mean, I'm more than happy to go either way. But you have this natural inclination. It's great. It's like a curiosity.
Yeah. Well, it's a nice opportunity to get to interview. I've not got to
Yeah.
get to interview. I have interviewed a lot of people though before because I've done.
Oh, I know.
You know, like that's something that I've kind of really enjoyed kind of trying to not just doing it because I like meeting people and like getting to know people, but it's also, it's been fun. It's been fun. Like, so what,
I mean,
I built a TV studio in my living room in 2005, right?
That's so you to put it in the living room.
Yeah. Well, you know, it was my house wasn't as big as this, so
Okay.
so I had a couple of rooms.
All
One
right.
of them was the living room. That was the room, the only room that was big enough to put
All
a couple
right, all
cameras in.
right, I get it.
So, but no, it was fun. It was fun, and you know, it's like there is sort of something about being able to have a.
So when you have guests now, to do this in your home where you live now.
Well, I'm not really doing a podcast right now where I'm interviewing people, so I'm just kind of not doing that. But I may build a podcast studio in my barn though. I have a barn. Do you have a barn?
I do not have a barn. If
Yeah.
you mean some place where I keep hay and
You don't have a. Do you have any
horses.
animals? Do you have any pets right now?
Yes, but they're not horses.
No.
No.
Dogs or?
Yes, dogs.
How many dogs do you have?
2 from as of 6 o'clock, but they're very old.
Oh, okay. Yeah. How old are they? What kind of dogs are they?
One of them's got to be 1,000. I don't know. I mean, I've had him since 2010, and he wasn't a puppy then.
Is it a big dog? Like what kind of dog?
No, he's
Do you know what kind of dog it is?
that's him as Kid Rock.
Oh, like a Chihuahua kind of dog?
Yeah, he looks like a Chihuahua. He's not.
It's a little
He's
dog.
a half
Chico trash dog. Yeah.
Chico, yeah.
Nice, Chico. Hello.
Chico, yeah.
Are they
So-
both Chihuahuas or
No.
small dogs?
No, and then Chula is half German Shepherd, half pit bull. You'd never guess. It looks like a German Shepherd, but not as big.
Yeah. Good guard dogs that let you know when there's something going on.
Fuck no. They're 1,000 years old. One of them Chula's blind. You know, it takes 1,000,000 years just to get
You
up.
had them since they were puppies?
Well, again, Chico, I'm guessing was about 2 when I had him.
You've had them for most of their lives.
Oh,
So they
yes.
weren't always.
No.
When they were younger, were they
On the
good
street?
guard
No.
dogs? No, were they good guard dogs? Did it bark? No?
No, but that's
Always been kind of just a chill dog.
That's my fault because I don't train dogs.
Well, you know,
I always say
It's kind of nice when they don't bark at everything that goes by,
Oh
actually.
no, he barks at things that don't go by. I mean, Chico just stands in the middle of the drive. The reason why he's alive, unlike the other one who never moves, because she's blind, I can't blame her, but is because Chico takes his job very seriously as a guard dog. So he stands in the middle of the driveway at night and just barks at nothing. He just preemptively wants to tell everybody, don't fuck with me. I'm Chico.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm in the middle of this driveway. I've got one eye and I can bite and I will bite.
Right?
He'll bite me.
You know she's doing that because she's trying to protect you because,
Yes,
because,
no.
because she loves you.
Chico takes
Loves
his
you and
job
wants to
very
make sure that you are
Yes.
safe.
No. Chico takes his job very seriously, and that's what keeps him young.
Yeah.
Or he's not young. It keeps him alive. I don't know how he's still alive, but I'm glad he is.
I mean, the last time you saw Chico,
It was right before I came over here.
so still alive, I would say.
Yeah. No,
It's only been.
I mean, I worry about them
Yeah.
like that because
Well, it's
I've buried
Mhm.
right like maybe 25 feet that way from this building up that hill is my dog graveyard.
Oh.
And there's 5 graves there,
Oh wow. Yeah.
and I personally dug all of them because I found it to be a very cathartic experience to dig the grave yourself.
Yeah.
I did one in a howling rainstorm.
Mhm.
It was so therapeutic
Do you?
with the tears rolling down my cheeks, mixing with the rain.
Yeah. Well, it is a heavy
I'd like
thing.
to thank the Academy.
No, no, but it's because it is one of the worst things you have to do, right? I mean, animals are family, right? These are family. I had 2 huskies for 15 years. I went through that. It's a horrible thing, right? But you have to kind of move on, and they had great lives. I'm sure. They all live.
You'll appreciate this from apropos to our discussion there about people in the middle and all that shit. But I quoted this lady I read, wrote a story in the Free Press last year, and she had lived in New York with her husband, exactly what you would think of as like a left-wing liberal couple in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Not bad people. Again, I would probably agree with them on most issues. They decide to move up to the country, just like you did. But this is upstate New York.
Sure.
And
The Poconos.
that's Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, right. So what I'm thinking of
It's closer to where I went to college at Cornell.
Okay. Yeah.
Ithaca, New York.
Yeah.
Ithaca, New York is like outside of Cornell.
Yeah.
You'd think you were in Alabama.
Yeah. No,
I mean, shacks
yeah.
and like meth, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Like as soon as you get out of New York,
There's a lot of shacks and meth in Alabama. You said you'd think it was like
I mean,
Alabama,
I've
and then
only
you said
been to-
shacks and meth. I'm just like,
Well,
there probably is a lot of shacks and meth in Alabama.
I think
just
not in. I'm not saying this in a put down way.
no,
but
no, no, no.
all
I
of
want to clarify.
Appalachia,
Yeah, sure.
Appalachia, which
Yeah.
stretches over, I think, 7 or 8 states.
I'm sure there's meth and crack.
I think there's definitely meth.
Yeah.
If I can believe what I saw on
If
that.
you're gonna bet on a place to have it, that would be the place, probably.
Did you ever see Winter's Bone?
Mm-mm.
Really great movie. Jennifer Lawrence's first movie before she was known.
Okay, cool.
And it's about life in, West Virginia,
Right.
Appalachia, and meth, and everybody. It does not have a false note, and I say that as someone who would not know what a false note was in a movie about West Virginia, because I don't know about that area, but it just seems very true.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so why were we talking about that?
We were just. Why were we talking about
Yeah,
that?
why did we get onto like meth in West Virginia?
Well, we were talking about.
Something important.
Yeah, let's talk about. We don't have to talk about meth anymore. I don't think we really need to talk about meth.
Well, that's one drug well,
Have you
no.
done meth?
Oh,
Have you
my-
taken meth? I've never taken meth. For the record, I've never
Yes.
partaken in the meth. You have actually
At
done.
Cornell.
So really,
Cornell
it
was.
was a different time. You were.
It
It was there was sort of all these drugs were kind of new experimental. It was
Well-
the Beatles were just gonna right the Beatles, right?
Beatles.
They started all
well,
that.
the Beatles had split
They
up
got
by
the ball
by
rolling and
this
all that
time.
though. They mainstreamed.
Now, this
meth
is
and
mid
stuff.
70s. The Beatles had John Lennon hadn't even appeared in like 3 years.
No, but they got the ball rolling on that, and now it's
Right.
Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin.
Right.
What was music? Were you
Zeppelin
listening to?
was huge in the 70s, yes.
And what were you listening to Zeppelin?
I was listening to Zeppelin, Jackson Brown.
Okay.
Those were my 2 big ones, big go-tos.
Do you listen on a record, on vinyl? You had a record player in your place?
Yeah, we were still into vinyl, sure.
Yeah.
There were, or tapes.
Yeah, tapes, right?
Tapes.
I was all tapes pretty much. Vinyl had just disappeared basically when I was a kid, so it was cassette tapes was pretty much my era, which seemed like it wasn't as cool as vinyl, but now at this time, I would love to be in a cassette tape world right now, listening to music on cassette tape or vinyl. It's a.
Well,
I don't love having to listen to music on this digital stuff, but it's great to have access to the music. But it was nice to just be able to put in that album, push play, listen to the whole album.
Yeah, I don't miss that at all.
You really don't?
No, I have my vinyl collection though.
Yeah.
And kids see it and they just flip.
And do you listen to your vinyl a lot?
No, never.
You never listen to it.
Why would I?
You never go. Do you have a record player?
No, you know what
That's probably why you don't. You got to get a good record player.
I use the iPod.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to bore people. I always talking about my love of the
Surprised
iPod.
you
but
don't. If you ever.
There are advantages to the iPod that
Sure.
I insist.
Oh, the actual original iPod?
Yeah.
Like not your phone. You have the actual device still?
with the circle.
They still make that, or
Well, you can get them
just
on eBay.
You just have a vintage one.
I have 5 of them.
Wow, and you love because
There are advantages to it.
I
I
agree with
promise
that.
you.
I agree with that for sure. I don't have one, but I remember having them because it's nice because all the music's there. It doesn't disappear. There's no ads popping up. It's your music. You feel like you own it.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
also,
Right?
yeah, I don't think if you're on a streaming service, I think not every artist is licensed to every service. So I don't think you can have every song you actually want.
Yeah.
I mean, can I get all 4,000 songs on one service? I know what I can't do is edit the beginning or end of a song, which I can do on an iPod
Yeah.
because it's on your computer.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is go to options and you can, and many songs need the beginning or end clipped.
Really? You're not a fan of some over long intros and the 70s rock stuff? You just want to get right to the guitar solo or right to
no.
the first verse? It's big intros in some of those old Led Zeppelin songs. So it was really...
There's people's phone machine messages on some of those songs.
Right.
There's people talking to a live audience for 2 minutes and telling the same story I want to hear a million
So
times.
do you actually...
There's applause at the end. Or yes, sometimes musicians do make mistakes and they just put 30 or 40 seconds of some sort of ambient bullshit that's supposed to set up the song, but it doesn't.
So this is a pet peeve of yours, and therefore you've
It's
gone
not a
and
pet.
you've edited a lot of your songs to
It will
remove
become well. It's not a pet peeve. A pet peeve would be
these? It irritates you enough that
It
you've
would-
actually done something about it. Like you sit down at a computer and edit the front out of a bunch of songs so you
I've
don't have to
done it,
listen to them
yes.
ever again.
to listen to the beginning or end.
Yeah,
That
because you just want to get to the meat of it.
You're making it sound worse than it is. I'm telling you, I'm getting rid of stuff that is bullshit. And you're
I'm just fucking around, but like
I
mean,
know,
it
but
is
you're
funny to picture you actually
but I'm
sitting
not
down
going to
and
let you get
cut
away with it.
Okay.
The pretending that what I'm taking off
Yeah.
is because I'm just sort of some sort of nut
No.
who's only like a hook junkie. Just give
No.
me the middle 30 seconds of that song where they go, yeah, yeah, oh yeah. No. I'm cutting off actual bullshit.
Right.
I'm cutting off the fat off this steak
I'm not saying
that I
it's-
don't want to eat.
I'm not saying it's a nutty thing to do. I'm just saying it's like it's a little more. Most people would just not do anything about it.
That is true.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not most people.
Yeah, it's not crazy. It's just a little bit more than the average person would do. They wouldn't go and cut the song, cut a little file, and only carry a vintage iPod.
It takes 2
it's
seconds.
the only thing that allows them to do that. They just listen to a different song without the intro they don't like or whatever.
It takes 30 seconds.
Yeah, that's
All
cool.
you
That's
got-
cool. I like that. The sound quality is better too, I think, than through the internet. The sound quality is actually better. Like
Also, I
more,
must say,
more
I know.
resolution or whatever than
First
the
of all,
audio.
Maybe you can do this on a playlist in Spotify or Pandora or whatever. Maybe you can do this. So just don't write me letters if you can. But with the iPod, you put it on shuffle. No, with the iPod, you can mark also songs as skip when shuffling. So in other words, of my 4,200 songs,
Right. You won't get this.
I don't want to hear Christmas music
Right.
on shuffle.
Mhm.
And there's other stuff I have in there, yoga music. I don't.
Yeah.
So I marked all those.
Or even particular songs in general.
There's
Specific
some,
songs.
I mean, I don't want just like upbeat songs, ballads or no. But like comedy record, no, that's not going to come up on shuffle.
Yeah.
You're
You're listening to music.
It's
talk stuff,
music.
yeah.
Some of it might be slow, some of it might be strong. I love putting it on shuffle. Frank Sinatra comes up, and then Tupac.
So this is on your iPod, and then it's plugged into your speakers, or
Yeah. It just
you plug
goes
it in the car when you get the car. Do you plug it in the car?
I have one you can get in the car. Yeah,
So it's an iPod.
not
in
the
your car.
old iPod in the car, but you can get this music of your.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, it is.
Music is a very important thing, like to actually listen to music and enjoy music.
Oh, so important. And now this is, you're going to say is not rational, and it probably isn't, but I also believe that my iPod on shuffle does speak to me. Like
Yeah.
there are messages that come through
Mhm.
with the songs that it's picking on shuffle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, there's too many times, and it's been
This is a
just
bit nutty, but no,
eerie. even for you. But
so
I'm not,
you really do think there's sort of a
I
some
think-
synchronistic sort of
I think the Lord works in mysterious ways.
songs will come on. It just doesn't make any sense that would play right now. Is it possible like a lot of songs have themes of emotion and it sort of reappear throughout
I
us?
thought
Or
of
like-
that. I
Just sort of
swear
not
to
as much
God.
because a lot of songs are
That's
about
exactly the right answer
Right,
to
and
what
you're
I'm
feeling
saying. You,
bad a certain day
Well-
and a sad song comes on and yeah.
If it was just that simple,
But it's more
it's
specific than that.
So specific.
Like it really is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I'll be thinking about a song for a certain reason, and then it'll play the first thing up on the shuffle. I mean, it's
I believe in that
I feel like the Chinese are involved somehow.
with TikTok, mate. It's
No, I'm
TikTok's algorithm.
saying that they're.
No, there is. So you're consider yourself a spiritual person?
Not up until that minute, but I don't.
No.
So, in fact, I'm not even sure what it means.
You
And I
believe
don't,
in some form of energy coming from the iPod, though. Some sort of maybe that could be God.
that's what I'm saying. It does rhyme.
Right.
I'm just saying. I'm just reporting. I'm not making any judgments or conclusions. I'm just saying. The iPod Shuffle does speak to me. It
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
It just suggests things through the music that it could not possibly have known. We didn't arrange anything. I've never met this magician before. It just does it. It just does it.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying this is a reason why they shouldn't, make it so that I can't use my iPod, but I do worry about Apple someday just making it so it just doesn't exist at all because, you have to, what I like about it is you can edit all this stuff like on your
Yeah.
computer.
When you have a vintage
But then you have
iPod,
to put the iPod in the dock
Right.
to transfer from the computer.
Right.
I mean, they could cut that off at
Right,
any
they could
time.
change the format that music's recorded on.
I mean, they've
what are they,
already
MP3s still? or-
no, I don't know what it is, but I mean, I can't do it.
all the songs are in a certain
But
file.
at some point, I did have to, get a super duper computer expert to undo something Apple had changed. That
with the
made,
iPod. So your iPod
Yeah.
wasn't working for a second?
it
then?
would not.
Wow.
Yeah, it would not
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I miss owning the music in a tangible way, right? Where it just doesn't.
Right.
You sort of have this organized set of music. Whether
Well,
this is, you could just get a record player and get back to listening to music, but they can't take that in the
Also,
car and all that stuff.
I like the fact that I have the music I have and they can't change it because you see they do change songs because woke Canadian assholes, for example, are the type of people who don't believe in free speech like they don't anymore in Germany or England. And so like they will change songs. I
We
saw
have freedom of speech in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We have freedom of speech
well,
up
but you got to fight for it.
We can say whatever we want up there.
Oh, okay, I hope so.
Yeah, we can.
Because I
I think it's a little overblown. There was a something
it's
about
not
sharing news on.
No, it's not Canada,
social
but
media.
England has arrested people for opinions on the internet,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not down with that. And so
I think
is
there's been
Germany.
some misinformation about me getting all Canadian right now, but there's been some misinformation about Canadian freedom of speech though that's been floating around out there. Like we've got freedom of speech in Canada. It's in our
Okay, well,
Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We have freedom of the press, freedom of assembly.
Yeah, well, just because something's in a charter, I mean, we have it too, and Trump is threatening that, and sometimes the
But I
left
mean,
is
like,
threatening that
I've
too.
never experienced a situation where I can't say something up there. There are hate speech laws in Canada, so there are things you can't say. But you know
Well,
what? Who would want to say that shit anyways, right? So
well,
but
that's not what free speech means.
right, it's a
That's
slight.
why-
It's a slight. But there's a
reason,
clearly defined definition of what hate speech is. So it's not overreaching. It's fairly specific. It's
the
not
Supreme
really. You can
Court-
pretty much say anything you want except for extreme things that you would not agree with, I would think, and that nobody would really want to agree with in
No,
a
that's
civilized
no.
society.
You don't know what free speech is. Then you don't know.
Well,
That's
it's-
not what free speech is. That's
Okay.
the definition of not free speech.
Okay.
Like what everybody thinks. Not everybody thinks the same.
Mm.
The Supreme Court ruled in our country
Yeah.
that the Nazis could march in Skokie, Illinois,
Yeah.
which they were marching in because it is a community of a lot of Holocaust survivors, many of whom were still alive at the time.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court said, as abhorrent as that is,
Yeah.
that is what free speech is about. Anybody can defend the speech that we all like, but sometimes it changes what people like, and you just don't want to be limited that way. Now, if you are literally inciting violence or kiddie porn or something like that, yes, there are things, and they're already illegal. But it gets very dangerous in my view.
There was a lot of talk about banning
start with-
TikTok in America, though. That's almost like a clamping down of.
Well, that was different. That was
They didn't
because
ban it, but I mean, they were.
Well,
like were serious about
actually
it.
they passed a law to ban it, and Trump, who's king now, just said, "I'm undoing that."
Yeah,
I
think
mean,
it
this
probably helped
his
in getting
first
him
most
elected. For sure.
blatantly illegal thing he did.
Yeah. I think it probably was favorable to him. TikTok was favorable to Donald Trump in the election. So why would you want to cancel that?
Well, you know what your old boss is so good at? He's so good at picking
Old boss.
picking off little constituencies.
Mm.
Like he got it. Oh, TikTok. Kids love TikTok. What do I care? I'll say TikTok's legal now. He picks up RFK. He's like, I don't know this guy's a nut, but you know what? He's got a constituency, which he does. Like people who want to make America healthy again. RFK combines like people from the left and people from the right. People, libertarian types from the right and super healthy moms from the left who want to have raw goat milk and don't want their kids to have unnecessary vaccines. So Trump's like, oh, I'll pick off him. I mean, he's gonna pardon this guy who was running a internet website. He's in jail. That was like,
Mhm.
you know, all the nastiest shit.
Okay.
And Trump's like, well, no, doesn't hurt me if I, and he'll get like 1 million because this guy's got like 1 million faithful followers.
Sure. Millions.
He's
millions and
genius
millions.
at doing that, like picking off these little constituency where it doesn't hurt him.
And it travels through the
You know,
internet at the speed of light more than other things
he
possibly.
pardons rappers. It's like,
The Kodak Black, he pardoned.
yeah. So like
He's pretty
lots
good
of
rap.
black guys who,
You like Kodak Black? He's pretty. I'm not sure. I
I'm
could name
not-
one of his songs, but I like his music. He's pretty.
I do not know his music,
He's-
and that's all on me. Why, is he really great?
No, I mean, I listened to it a bit. I like it, but I don't know. I'm not super aware of everything.
What
he
do you listen to when you're out on the tractor?
I listen to a lot of music that I was going to ask you that too, but I did ask you that. But if I would go to I listen to like Joy Division.
Joy Division. I never
New
heard-
Order. I
heard of
listen
these
to
people.
Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cash, I know him.
Yeah, I listen to
Johnny Cash.
Neil Young. I listen to
Neil Young, Canadian.
Yeah, absolutely.
There
Canadian.
is a town
Absolutely. Yeah.
in North Ontario.
Absolutely. I live in North Ontario.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
see.
It hits close to home when you hear some Neil Young talking about Ontario. It's like Tom Petty singing about Ventura Boulevard. You know, it
Right.
pulls
I get it.
it tugs on the.
That's why I sang it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, yeah, yeah. No, I listen to. No, let me think of what else I listen to. I want to, because when I was younger, I listened to a lot of rap music, but I don't really listen to it as even the music I listened to growing up. It doesn't, I don't feel like listening to. I won't say name the particular bands, but I don't feel like listening to rap music that much as an adult. I want to listen to something more like calming, something that's going to calm me down.
But when you get done with this RV trip that you're on,
yeah, it's sort of it's not an ongoing thing. I'm heading back up to Canada touring.
Yeah, you're gonna stay put for a while.
Yeah, I'm touring, doing stand-up, so I'll be going out and doing shows and working.
What do you when you're on the road? Like, so how many do you do? Like a bunch in a row?
On this particular trip, it's been driving, so it was one-nighter. So it was in Chattanooga, Nashville,
And you drive to like a band.
I was on this trip. I did, over the last 20 years, I usually flew out. But when COVID happened, I kind of got this van. And I started enjoying driving around because, rather than going to a comedy club for a weekend and doing 4 shows, it's more like, I'll just do one-nighters across as I go, and then not have to go to the airport, not have to go through all that.
What do you do after the show?
Well, right now I'm traveling with my fiance, so we're having a great time. We go, get dinner and do what a man and his fiance does after a show.
Well, I don't know what you thought this program was, Mr. Green, but it's a family.
No, I'm
it's
just
a
saying-
family show,
saying,
and
but
we don't like
But
intimation.
other than that, we go get dinner and go visit the city. And we have a few days off here and there, so like right now, like we're not actually doing any shows until I'm in Colorado in a couple of weeks. So I'm here in Los Angeles for a week. Here's something. I left Los Angeles and had not come back for 3.5, almost 4 years until 3 days ago. So I lived here for 18 years. I lived here for 20 years.
Really?
When COVID happened, I sold my house when COVID happened that I'd owned for 18 years.
There was nothing that brought you here.
Well, I came here to see you.
No, I mean in all that time.
No, there's nothing. Well, I wasn't trying to purposely avoid it, but I just kind of, it was sort of, there was no real reason to come other than I have friends here that I missed, but I talk to them all the time on the phone and stuff and FaceTime and stuff. So
So
I
you're
was kind of excited about setting up this farm, but this is actually the first time I've been back. So it's kind of
and
interesting.
this is on Netflix.
Prime, Amazon Prime.
I mean,
Amazon
Amazon.
Prime. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's on Prime and
They didn't tell me to watch it, but I'm anxious to see it.
yeah, it's fun.
I should have seen it already. I'm sorry.
It's okay. No,
I
it's
just
okay.
wasn't told, but it's on Amazon called.
I don't think we would have talked about a lot of the things we talked about tonight if you had watched it. So I think it worked out for the best.
That was Larry King's thing always. Like he would do very little
Do
prep,
any
and he'd be
research,
like, "Hey, I want to be the guy
Uh-huh.
who wants to know. If I know, why am I asking?"
I was Larry's guest host.
So you're gonna say lover again, and I
No, I would
disappointed.
not
again.
love her again. I'm sorry.
God damn.
It was, but I was I guest hosted his final show that he was doing there over. Did you ever do a show in Burbank in that
A
church?
million times.
so, yeah.
Oh, in Burbank.
Yeah, when he was doing it on Aura TV. It was,
Oh, Russian TV?
no, well, he had a show on Russian TV, which is politicking, and then he had a talk show on Aura
I
TV.
feel like you got to know when to get off the stage.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I mean, Larry had a great run, and I loved him.
Yeah.
But
I thought you were talking about us right now. But
but no, because we got real gigs. But like, you know, Russian TV, they're gonna get. I'm not gonna hang on Russian TV.
No.
And I'm not going on one of those celebrities, you know, go in the jungle.
Yeah. No. Yeah, or a business competition with.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
I could
Bill, this
do
has
it
been
all
fun.
night. So much
Fun as
fun.
hell. Yeah,
Welcome
absolutely.
back to the homestead.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for the weed whacker, and I'll get you into what it is.
Okay, thank you.
Club Random.
That was so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you. This was an honor and a pleasure. Thank you, Bill.
Club Random.